Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Invasion of All Realms, I Become a God by Signing In. Chapter 21. Yi Hao looked at Wu Lei curiously. It seems that the other party has never entered the secret realm. Wu Lei looked at Yi Hao, his eyes as calm as water, and then said, "Although my awakened talent has reached the intermediate level, it is extremely special, and the method of improvement is also unique. Therefore, I directly chose a noble family, signed a contract, and joined them. The secret realm is not that important to me." Quote. Wu Lei's tone was extremely calm, as if he was not talking about himself. The other party's tone was full of strong confidence, and it seemed that he could become stronger without relying on the secret realm. However, Wu Lei did not take the initiative to show off his talent, that is, he did not intend to tell him. As a result, Yi Hao was embarrassed to ask proactively. Deng even nodded. "In that case, then you can practice well here, I will go to the practice room first." "Okay, I'm going to practice too." Wu Lei nodded. Looking at Yi Hao's disappearing back, a purple light flashed in his eyes, which was extremely strange. "Third level warrior, squad leader, are you really just a junior talent?" After using a secret method to learn Yi Hao's true realm, Wu Lei's eyes clearly flashed with surprise. He had never seen those disciples from aristocratic families, but even the genius disciples from those aristocratic families were far inferior to the current level of cultivation of Yi Hao in front of him. He knew that Yi Hao was just an ordinary family and there were simply not enough resources to train Yi Hao. Therefore, this made him have serious doubts about Yi Hao's so-called elementary talent. This time the martial arts test is interesting. Wu Lei thought of something interesting, the corners of his mouth were slightly raised, and his tone was full of excitement. The children of those aristocratic families all have their eyes set high above their heads. Perhaps Yi Hao's existence can give them a big surprise. I just hope that Yi Hao won't lose too early. Otherwise, this matter would be too boring. I don't know what kind of improvement this earth core fruit can give me. Yi Hao thought of the 7-color flower he took last time, which not only enhanced his recovery talent a lot, but also doubled the energy and blood value obtained by signing in. In terms of grade and effect, the geocentric fruit, which is far above the 7-color flower, might be able to double his combat power. Let's try one first. Yi Hao picked up a white core fruit and threw it directly into his mouth, like a cow chewing a peony. Not long after, a pure energy exploded in his body. Yi Hao quickly circulated the qi and blood in his body, wrapped up this energy, and slowly refined it. Out of the 10 sign-in requirements, there were actually 2 fewer sign-in requirements. After the refining was completed, Yi Hao quickly sensed his body, only to find that the sign-in talent that originally required 6 sign-ins to be upgraded now only required 4 sign-ins to be upgraded. The recovery talent has not changed this time. Is it possible that the medicinal effects of the earth core fruit have been absorbed by the sign-in talent? And the most important thing is that I still don't know the effect of signing in talents, whether they are strengthened, or whether they only reduce the number of talent upgrades. Quote. Yi Hao looked at his sign-in talent, which was still in an unusable state, and fell into deep thought. If you want to know whether the effect of the sign-in talent has been strengthened, only after the early morning, when the sign-in talent is officially refreshed, can we know. No matter what, let's upgrade the sign-in talent first. Looking at the only 4 geocentric fruits left on the ground, Yi Hao swallowed 2 geocentric fruits without any hesitation. Then he sat cross-legged on the ground and began to refine the medicinal effects of the earth core fruit. The moment the medicinal effect of the earth core fruit was completely absorbed by himself, Yi Hao experienced tremendous changes in his body. Dantian, the white light spot that was supposed to represent the sign-in talent, turned blue at this moment, exuding a faint blue light, illuminating the entire Dantian, looking like a blue ocean from a distance. Daily sign-in only intermediate talent, you can sign in once a day. Current level 1. Upgrade requirements. Sign in 20 times. Talent has actually evolved. Yi Hao repeatedly looked at the sign-in talent that was undergoing huge changes in his body, and finally confirmed that his talent had not only reached level 1. Moreover, it has directly evolved from a primary talent to an intermediate talent, which means that the signing talent is a talent that can grow, and it is also the only talent that has never appeared before. Bai Ling's angel wings are simply not on the same level as his signing talent. I don't know what I can sign in tonight. Seeing that the sign in talent had been successfully upgraded and evolved to an intermediate talent, Yi Hao's eyes revealed a hint of fanaticism. It was hard for him to imagine that the signing talent had evolved into an intermediate talent. What benefits will it bring to you after completing the sign-in? The entry-level talent sign-in talent has given me great benefits, allowing my combat power to continue to grow in just 3 days. So what about the intermediate talents after successful evolution? He couldn't wait to arrive in the early morning and look forward to signing in for the 5th time. There are 2 more Earth Core fruits. Looking at the only 2 geocentric fruits left on the ground, Yi Hao swallowed them without any hesitation. Sure enough, the 20 check-ins required for intermediate talent upgrades were reduced by 4 times again. In other words, after 16 more times, your sign-in talent can be upgraded to level 2. I just don't know if my signing talent will evolve into a high-level talent by then. After the sign-in talent was upgraded to an intermediate talent, my mental strength, understanding and even my cultivation speed seemed to have increased a lot. Yi Hao was comprehending the first-grade body martial arts skill he bought yesterday, Lost Steps. Things that seemed a little confusing before became clear instantly, and even the speed of qi and blood in my body was much faster. It's hard to imagine what kind of bonuses those owners of super talents, or even extraordinary talents, will receive. The higher the talent, the deeper the gift from heaven. This is why high-level talent can crush low-level talent. It's because they don't exist in the same world. Yi Hao saw that he now had an intermediate talent, and his cultivation speed had at least doubled. It is hard to imagine that the cultivation of those super talents is as simple as drinking water. I think it won't take long for my signing talent to surpass them. Looking at his signing talent, Yi Hao was full of confidence. Sign in successfully, congratulations on getting 100 points of mental power. In the early morning, after successfully signing in, Yi Hao's mental power instantly increased dozens of times. The extremely rich mental power even turned into liquid, filling his sea of consciousness like sea water. Yi Hao closed his eyes subconsciously. The next second, everything within a radius of 100 meters was completely presented in his mind. At this time, he was like God, overlooking everything that happened within 100 miles. Is this the terror of mental power? Feeling his godlike operation, he couldn't help but let out a sigh. I didn't expect that the talent of signing in would give me such a big surprise. Yi Hao couldn't help but laugh. The reward for signing in this time was beyond his expectation. And once you sign in, the value is 100. Next time I sign in, if it's qi and blood, doesn't it mean that I can become a martial artist directly? When the warrior's vitality reaches 10 points, he becomes a warrior. When the warrior's energy and blood reach 100 points, he becomes a martial artist. As for the martial arts master, he wants to become a master. It's not just about having enough energy and blood, but also having your own artistic conception. There are even certain requirements for mental strength. Although Yi Hao now doesn't know how much this requirement is, these 100 points of mental power have definitely met the requirements of advanced master. In other words, Yi Hao only needs to improve his qi and blood, and there will be absolutely no bottlenecks before he becomes a grand master. Perhaps, I can consider secret skills such as spiritual cultivation as my trump card. Yi Hao had seen a battle scene of a soul master on Duin before. His opponent was a 5th-level demon king. Its body was as huge as a mountain. He stepped down casually, and a huge footprint appeared on the ground. If you move your body, the sky will fall apart. Unexpectedly, the soul master just pointed with his right hand, and a small golden sword flew out from between his eyebrows. Then, the golden sword disappeared. The next second, the demon king who originally wanted to launch an attack stopped making any movement. When the screen started to rotate again, the demon king had fallen to the ground without a trace of breath. It was obvious that he had been dead for a long time. But there aren't any wounds on its body, which really makes people curious. It wasn't until the scene was about to end that the soul master began to explain how he had just killed the 5th-level demon king in front of him. It turned out that the golden sword was his substantial spiritual power, and there were many extremely powerful Tao marks carved on it. The moment the golden sword disappeared, it had already chopped the demon king's consciousness into pieces. The consciousness has passed away, and the demon king dies directly. This is also the reason why the Demon King has no wounds on his body but is already dead. Mental attacks are invisible and difficult to prevent, which is why Soul Masters are invincible at the same level. Yi Hao was envious before and wanted to become a Soul Master all the time. Now that I have such mental power, I finally have the qualifications to become a Soul Master. Spiritual secret skills are valuable. With my current financial resources, I simply cannot purchase them. Yi Hao felt very headache when he thought about the price of spiritual secret skills. This kind of martial arts is very rare, which also makes the price of this kind of martial arts very ridiculous. Now he can't even afford 1,000 low-level Soul Masters, so he still has to spend money to buy spiritual skills. It seems that the only option is to pursue the Soul Crystal. Yi Hao thought of the Soul Crystal he and Zhongsa had discovered during the day. A Soul Crystal the size of a thumbnail was equivalent to 100 high-grade Soul Stones. No, with my current strength, as long as I take it out, I won't be able to save even a small piece of Soul Crystal. The next second, Yi Hao rejected his idea. With his current strength, once he takes out this Soul Crystal, if it attracts the attention of those aristocratic families, the gain will outweigh the loss. You know, in this world, high-level warriors kill people without paying for it with their lives. You only need to enter the secret realm to explore new paths for mankind. If you perform meritorious deeds, you can even be directly pardoned for your crimes. Then the only idea is to hit the Soul Stone vein. Yi Hao thought of the Soul Stone veins beneath the Soul Crystal. After taking away the Soul Crystal, there was an additional gap. What they were afraid of before was alarming the Earth Dragons. Now with this gap, they can enter the mineral vein through this gap. It's simply a matter of killing two birds with one stone. In this way, his spiritual skills will be developed. It was early the next morning. Yi Hao was sitting at the dining table, enjoying the feeding from his mother. And because they had agreed to meet at school in advance, Zhongsa did not show up at Yi Hao's home this time. Xiao Hao, I've been so busy lately that Mom even forgot to give this to you. At this time, Mother Yi came over, holding a very delicate wooden box in her hand, and handed it to Yi Hao. This is a space ring. Yi Hao took the wooden box and opened it gently. In the center of the box, there was a gray ring, exuding inexplicable fluctuations. It is obvious that this is a space ring, and the owner has not yet been identified. Only a space ring without an owner will emit energy fluctuations. Once the owner is recognized, the energy fluctuations will automatically converge. Your dad was going to give it to you last time, but when you weren't at home, he was in a hurry to leave and gave it to me. I was so busy that I forgot about it. Yi Mu explained. Did Dad go to the secret realm again? Yi Hao looked at the space ring in his hand, recognized its owner, and then looked at his mother. Only now did he realize that his father was a bit mysterious and could actually get things like space rings. I'm afraid, my father's realm is not that of a so-called low-level warrior. A low-level warrior is not qualified to possess a space ring. And after recognizing the owner, Yi Hao found that the space inside was very large, enough to accommodate a small mountain. Such a high-grade space ring further confirmed his thoughts. Moreover, Zhongsa's father is also extremely mysterious. Yi Hao also thought of Zhongsa's father. There was a third-grade elixir and a space ring hidden in a safe, and Zhongsa could easily open it. Obviously, this was intentional on the part of the other party's father. In other words, this is what his father left to him. Your dad's talent is a bit weird. It can only be used to its fullest effect in the secret realm. He can't be with you at ordinary times and has his own reasons. Don't blame him. Yi Mu sighed softly. When she thought of the other party's talent, she also looked helpless. Dad is good to me, how could I blame him? Okay, Mom, I'm going to school. Although Yi Hao's father didn't spend much time at home, he gave Yi Hao what he should and could give without reservation. Therefore, he never meant to complain about the other party. When you are in the secret realm, remember to ensure your own safety first and don't act on impulse. Mother Yi reminded. Nu. Hearing this familiar chatter, Yi Hao smiled knowingly, opened the door and walked out. I don't know what happened to that Yi Lan in that world. Looking at her son who had left, Mother Yi sighed. It's a pity that she can't leave now, and she can only have time to spend time with him when her son goes to college. The time flow rate of the primary secret realm is 1. One day in real time, and 1 day in the primary secret realm. The time passage in the intermediate secret realm is basically 3. 1 day in the real world, but 3 days have passed in the intermediate secret realm. Yi Lan, Yi Hao's father, is in a high-level secret realm, and the speed of time has reached a terrifying 110. In other words, 1 day is spent in reality, but 10 days have indeed passed in the advanced secret realm. Compared to raising Yi Hao alone at home, Yi Lan paid the most. But there is no way, for the sake of Longguo and for the future of his son, Yi Lan must go. Fortunately, Xiao Hao can understand you. Mother Yi looked at Yi Hao through the window, with a hint of relief in her eyes. Yi Hao, you are here. Seeing Yi Hao walking over, Zhang Sa's face showed a hint of excitement and she quickly walked up. Looking at Zhang Sa, whose mouth was cracked to the ground, Yi Hao couldn't help but smile and said, "You are so happy that you found money." "Hey, my rage has evolved to a high-level talent. This time, I can also go to the genius class." After looking at the classmates around him, Zhang Sa said in a low voice. But there was excitement in his tone that couldn't be hidden. "What benefits does this genius class give you that make you so happy?" Seeing Zhang Sa, who was so excited, Yi Hao couldn't help but ask. Zhang Sa nodded. "In the Tianzhao class, you can receive a qi and blood pill from the teacher every 7 days, and have an opportunity to ask the master for advice. It is said that there are better benefits, but I will not be able to truly understand them until I enter the Tianzhao class." Quote, "As expected of a genius class, we can even get pills like qi and blood pills and distribute them to students for free. What's more, we have the opportunity to ask the master for advice once a week." After listening to Zhang Sa's words, Yi Hao couldn't help but admire him, feeling incredible about the school's generosity. You must know that elixirs like qi and blood pills are specially used to improve qi and blood. In the outside world, each one is worth tens of thousands of low-level soul stones, and it is the kind of existence that has a price but no market. The school is able to give students a qi and blood pill every week, which shows how generous it is. There is also the opportunity to ask the Grand Master for advice. The value to the outside world is no less than a qi and blood pill, and it also depends on whether the Grand Master is willing to do so. No wonder, this seems to be the reason why every class of genius class can completely crush other students. It's a pity that his current talent is only an intermediate talent, and he won't be able to enter the genius class at all. However, even if his talent at this time has reached the advanced level, it is impossible for him to choose to join the genius class. Because once he enters the genius class, his talent will inevitably be exposed. Such a magical talent, once exposed. When the time comes when you are targeted by someone, you will have no choice but to do so. The best outcome is to be treated as a captive guinea pig, to be slaughtered by others, and constantly rewarded. Therefore, being in the regular class is the best choice for him. And with his signing talent, he can grow up quickly even in the ordinary class. There is no fear of those disciples from the prodigy class. And I heard that Bai Ling's treatment is even more outrageous. He can receive a qi and blood pill every day. After finishing speaking, Zhang Sa couldn't help but show a hint of envy in his eyes. If he were to know, Bai Ling at this time was not only able to obtain qi and blood pills every day, but also had a Grand Master level protector, and was also a Grand Master of Sword Dao. Being able to be taught by the Grand Master every day and constantly improving his martial arts skills, I'm afraid he even has the desire to jump off a building. No way, who calls her a super talent? Yi Hao gently patted Zhang Sa's shoulder and told him not to be too frustrated. After all, this thing is not something you just want. Forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's go to the secret realm quickly and get the soul crystal out, so as not to have a long night and a lot of dreams. After listening to Yi Hao's words, Zhang Sa quickly calmed down his emotions and said, "Have you brought your mining tools?" Yi Hao asked curiously. "I brought it with me. It's in the space ring." Zhang Sa raised his left hand. What was different from the past was that he was wearing a gray ring on his left middle finger. It was obvious that this was the space ring he had just obtained from the safe. He put all the mining tools he brought this time inside. "Okay, let's go." Yi Hao nodded, and then he and Zhang Sa entered the secret realm directly. However, this time the two of them were a bit unlucky. They teleported to different locations, and it took them nearly an hour to finally meet. It took another half an hour to finally reach the intersection of the cave. Fortunately, there were no accidents. Reaching the depths of the cave, Yi Hao stepped forward and took off the disguises he and Zhang Sa had made, revealing the soul crystal inside, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Let's get started. Zhang Sa took out 2 mining hoes from the space ring and threw one to Yi Hao. He spit on his hands, rubbed his hands together, and after smearing the spit evenly, he tightened his grip on the hoe and started working. Let's get started. Yi Hao nodded, came to the other side of the soul crystal, and started working. Underground, they didn't have the slightest concern, and directly used all their strength, and the sound of dong dong kept ringing. But even so, the earth dragon next to him still slept soundly, as if he had died, without any movement. I've been doing it for so long and it still hasn't come out. Zhang Sa picked up the timer and found that an hour had passed. At this time, a huge part of the soul crystal has been exposed, but it has still not been completely excavated. He couldn't help but complain. Of course, the bigger the soul crystal, the better. Yi Hao looked at the soul crystal that had been dug out for most of the time and couldn't help laughing. The larger the soul crystal is, the larger the underground mineral veins are. Zhang Sa actually dislikes the fact that the soul crystal is too big. It's true that you are surrounded by blessings and don't know how blessed you are. Hearing Yi Hao's words, Zhang Sa nodded in agreement. Yes, the bigger the soul crystal is, the better. I just don't know when it will be completely dug out. Soon. Previously, Yi Hao used his mental power to completely ascertain the volume of this soul crystal, and now he has dug out more than half of it. What surprised him was that he couldn't detect the soul crystal at all, as if something was blocking his mental exploration. It was too dark inside the vein, and the soul crystal would reflect light, so they couldn't see clearly what was inside when they were working. Now only by digging out this soul crystal completely can they see clearly what is inside. I hope so. After Zhang Sa finished speaking, he spat on his hand again and started. Come out. Half an hour later, the soul crystal had been completely excavated by the 2 of them. Yi Hao picked up the flashlight in his hand and carefully looked at the soul crystal in front of him. But then, his brows also frowned slightly. Because he discovered that even if the soul crystal was completely excavated, he still couldn't see clearly what was inside the soul crystal. It cannot be seen clearly even with the naked eye. But there was a vague intuition that told him that there must be something inside this soul crystal. This is too big to divide. Zhang Sa also picked up the flashlight and kept looking at the soul crystal in front of him, but he found that the volume of the soul crystal in front of him was several times larger than the 2 of them combined, and he couldn't help but frown. Smash it first and then talk about it. Then, Zhang Sa made a move that surprised Yi Hao. He clenched the hoe in his hand and smashed it directly into the center of the soul crystal. Don't. Yi Hao had no time to stop him and could only watch as the hoe in Zhang Sa's hand hit the soul crystal directly. In an instant, the huge soul crystal was divided into 7 or 8 pieces and scattered on the ground. A stream of purple light flew out from the pile of soul crystals and disappeared in an instant. Yi Hao, did you see it? Clearly watching a purple stream of light disappear in front of his eyes, Zhang Sa, who clenched the hoe, also looked at Yi Hao with a look of disbelief. He suspected that he had seen it wrong and wanted to see if Yi Hao had also seen it. I saw it. Yi Hao nodded solemnly. As he expected, there was indeed something in this soul crystal. However, he didn't even see clearly what was in the stream of light, and just watched the other party disappear from his eyes. But what he could confirm was that there should be living things inside. The moment the soul crystal shattered, he felt a strong breath of life from it. But before he had time to find out, the other party disappeared. I didn't expect that the rumor was actually true. After confirming that Yi Hao had really seen it, Zhang Sa couldn't help but let out a long sigh, and there was still a shock in his eyes that he could not retreat from. Yeah, I didn't expect this rumor to be true. Yi Hao naturally knew what the rumor the other party was talking about was. According to rumors, some powerful people will use soul crystals as sealing objects. The lifespan of those who are sealed will be greatly slowed down, in order to achieve the effect of extending the lifespan. Zhang Sa sat slumped on the ground, obviously still not recovering from the shock, and then he couldn't help but mutter. I really don't know who sealed this thing here. This is just a primary secret realm. Yi Hao shook his head and expressed another different idea. Although this secret realm is only a junior secret realm now, who can guarantee whether it was an intermediate secret realm or even a high-level secret realm thousands of years ago or 10,000 years ago? You mean, this secret realm was once a high-level secret realm? After listening to Yi Hao's words, Zhang Sa's face was full of shock. In fact, there are not many such things. Many powerful people who have traveled to high-level secret realms have left their biographies on some websites. It is mentioned in it that there are high-level secret realms that want to break through to a higher level, but in the end they cannot withstand the baptism of the Great Road. In the end, not only did it not improve, but it was split into countless parts by the Great Road, and finally turned into small secret realms. This is also the origin of some low-level secret realms. It's a pity that I couldn't keep that guy. There was a hint of regret in Yi Hao's eyes. Being able to be sealed into the soul crystal proves that the other party is extraordinary. I am lucky to have gained it, but I have lost my life. Well, Yi Hao, don't worry about it anymore, Zhang Sa said with a smile. Yes, Yi Hao nodded in relief. Let's divide these soul crystals first. Looking at the soul crystal on the ground, Zhang Sa chuckled, and the previous nervousness disappeared without a trace at this moment. He touched his palm, and then, with Yi Hao's dumbfounded expression, he took out a weight scale from the space ring. Seeing this scene, Yi Hao smiled helplessly and said, "There's no need for this, and the weight of any soul crystal has long exceeded the upper limit of the weight of your thing. Let me divide it." After finishing speaking, Yi Hao walked up and divided the 8 soul crystals into equal parts according to their sizes. Although it could not be said that they were exactly the same, they were not much different. Then, he took his share back into his space ring. "Are you selling your ass?" After discovering that Yi Hao actually had a space ring, Zhang Sa immediately thought of Zhao Li, and a look of regret appeared on his face. He didn't expect that his good brother would actually go down the road of selling his butt for a space ring. It's all his fault. If he was strong enough, he wouldn't let his good brother sell his ass. What nonsense are you talking about? My dad gave it to me. Yi Hao had a black line on his face, and then slapped the other person on the head, venting his dissatisfaction. This is the second time that the other party said that he was selling his ass. Yi Hao, even if he starves to death, he will not sell his butt, okay? Uncle Yi gave it to you. Zhang Sa was a little surprised when he heard that this space ring was given by Yi Hao's father. Well, what's wrong? Yi Hao rolled his eyes at Zhang Sa. Zhang Sa chuckled and said, "It seems that Uncle Yi is not simple either." "It's really not simple." Yi Hao gently touched the space ring on his finger and nodded gently. Such a large space is definitely not something that an ordinary warrior can take out. Would you like to continue digging? Zhang Sa held a flashlight, and a beam of white light instantly shined on the large pit that had just been dug. A high-grade soul stone has been exposed inside, exuding a rich energy aura. Start digging. Yi Hao nodded and agreed. Even a high-grade soul stone the size of a thumb is enough for 10 days and a half of cultivation based on the two of them's realms. Zhang Sa was so excited that he jumped directly into the pit. Let's start digging separately. Each digs his own, and whoever digs it will get it. That's okay, but you must be faster. I won't be merciful. Yi Hao laughed and continued to dig deeper with his back to Zhang Sa. If we continue digging like this, we probably won't be able to dig out such a huge vein of soul stones within 10 or 8 years. After working for several hours, Zhang Sa exhausted all his energy and lay softly on the ground, looking helplessly at the less than 5-meter path he had just dug. And Yi Hao over there has dug more than 20 meters deep, and his efficiency is several times higher than his. It's a pity that even if he had the intention, he no longer had any strength to move. He could only watch helplessly as Yi Hao dug deeper and deeper. Why, I don't have any energy anymore. When Yi Hao heard Zhang Sa's voice, he stopped digging. Then he held the hoe and looked at him with a playful expression, his tone full of ridicule. With this little strength, you still dare to compare with him? Zhang Sa didn't even have the strength to nod, so she weakly said, I don't have any strength left. Yi Hao, you can continue digging if you want. The high-level soul stones I have dug now are enough for me to become a Grand Master. Yi Hao nodded, and then he checked his space ring, only to find that there was a mountain-like pile of high-grade soul stones inside the space ring. He looked at the huge deep hole of more than 20 meters long that he had opened, showed a satisfied smile, and then said, I have dug enough high-level soul stones. Forget it, I can't hold on any longer, so I'm going out first. After these few hours of high-intensity work, and in order to catch up with Yi Hao's progress, Zhang Sa even turned on the violent posture without knowing it, but still could not catch up with Yi Hao. In addition, he has gained enough, and he is exhausted and has no intention of staying here anymore. After seeing how tired Zhang Sa was, Yi Hao nodded gently, then you go out first. Wait a minute, I will go look elsewhere. Okay, see you at school. After saying that, Zhang Sa activated the token in his body and disappeared. Don't make trouble. Yi Hao, who was about to continue digging, suddenly felt something on his hair, which was warm and felt like some kind of liquid. He couldn't help but complain, but then he realized something was wrong and turned around sharply. Under the light of a flashlight, he finally discovered who the owner of this liquid was. An earth dragon more than 10 meters long was hovering above the deep pit, staring at him with eager eyes, white mucus continuously flowing out of its huge open mouth. So disgusting. Yi Hao couldn't help but feel sick when he thought that there was this kind of white liquid on top of his head just now. And in the next second, a powerful force of wind hit Yi Hao. It was the earth dragon that waved its long body, driving a huge boulder on the ground, and hit him directly on the head, wanting to smash him to death directly. Broken. Yi Hao punched out directly, and the terrifying force smashed the boulder in front of him into pieces. Yi Hao stared at the earth dragon in front of him, thought for a moment before turning off the light in his hand, and then walked directly in the direction of the entrance based on his memory. Deep underground, except for the teleportation array, there is no longer any light, and the earth dragon's eyesight is not good. Therefore, without the illumination of the lights, earth dragon quickly lost Yi Hao's direction. It seems that this mineral vein cannot be hidden. Yi Hao knew that once one earth dragon was awakened, the other earth dragons would slowly wake up. Earth dragon, who has been sleeping for a long time, will definitely stir up trouble once he wakes up, and eventually attract the attention of the school. There are so many large earth dragons that are really abnormal. Once the school investigates, the underground mineral veins will be 100% exposed. At that time, this mine will no longer be controlled by him. Thinking of this, Yi Hao couldn't help but show a trace of regret on his face. Fortunately, they have taken away the most important soul crystal and dug out enough high-level soul stones. Overall, it is not a loss. Yi Hao reluctantly comforted himself. After taking a final deep look at the entrance, he sighed and disappeared. It should be because I dug up the soul crystal. Yi Hao thought of the most critical reason. The soul crystal was originally a treasure of heaven and earth, not to mention that it was such a large piece of soul crystal, and it must have mysterious effects that he didn't know about. There was also a mysterious creature inside, but it was a pity that the other party slipped away. Otherwise, if he had sold it, he would probably be able to have food and drink in his next life. The moment Yi Hao's breath disappeared, the earth dragon that woke up was completely furious. Under its control, the surrounding rubble slowly rose into the air, and then slammed into the sleeping earth dragons. Without the special effects of the soul crystal, these earth dragons woke up from their slumber in an instant. After feeling the soul crystal disappear, they were equally angry. Especially the first earth dragon to wake up, its fury was about to reach the sky. The closer you are to the soul crystal, the greater the benefits you will get. Now, it is only one step away from breaking through to the second level, but it did not expect that at this critical moment, the soul crystal was stolen. Moreover, the thief ran away in front of it, which was a great shame and humiliation for it. Boom! In the distance, Yi Hao, who was still trying to figure out how to get out of the gobi, suddenly heard a deafening sound in his ears. He couldn't help but look back and saw a sandstorm rolling up in the direction he just left. What hatred and resentment! Through his mental power, Yi Hao instantly understood that these sandstorms were caused by those earth dragons. And the target is him. That spit. Yi Hao carefully looked at his body to see if there were any marks on the other party. Suddenly, he awoke with a start, thinking of the spit that the earth dragon spit on top of his head when they just met. It's obvious. That's called a mark. It is through saliva that earth dragon can locate its location in real time. When he thought about it, his face became even more ugly, and he could only run forward with all his strength. Still chasing. Looking at the chasing earth dragon, Yi Hao looked with a pity that there was still a lot of time left. But looking at the increasingly larger sandstorm, he could only activate the token in his body and escape from the secret realm. No. 1 Middle School, Back Mountain. The night is already dark. The gray fog was not affected in any way. Not long after, a white light appeared on the back mountain. It was Yi Hao who had escaped from the secret realm. When he saw that he had come out smoothly, he breathed a sigh of relief and lay heavily on the ground. Just now, he almost couldn't come back. Although those earth dragons are only at the first level, they possess a special ability. Although the sandstorm was powerful and numerous at the beginning, it was like a ball of loose sand. However, as time went by, those sandstorms actually began to merge together, rolling up a giant sandstorm 100 feet long, and its power increased dozens of times. In the blink of an eye, he had caught up with Yi Hao. If he hadn't activated the token quickly enough, he would have been ground into bloody mud by the wild sand in the sky in less than half a breath. Thinking that it won't be long before the underground soul stone veins will be discovered, Yi Hao was very helpless. That's what it is. He sighed softly, then took out his mobile phone from his space ring, sent a message to Zhang Sa, and told him everything that had just happened. If I had known better, I would have dug more. After learning that there would be no chance to dig for soul stones in the future, Zhang Sa couldn't help but regretted while lying on the bed eating snacks. There is no other way. Remember not to sell soul stones during this period. I'm afraid it will attract the attention of some guys. Yi Hao thought for a while and replied. If an ordinary student takes out a high-level soul stone, it will definitely attract someone's attention, and then there will be countless reasons. No. Zhang Sa also knew the importance of this kind of thing and replied immediately. Then the two talked about other things. After chatting with Zhang Sa, Yi Hao swiped the chat box and looked at the girl's avatar that had turned gray, and couldn't help but sigh. I actually plan to go to the secret realm to practice for a month. Looking at the message above, Yi Hao couldn't help but murmured. Just when Yi Hao was deep in thought, white light kept flashing on the back mountain. It's outrageous. I went to the plains the day before yesterday and encountered a riot by the Iron Bull herd, so I had to withdraw from the secret realm. Today I went to the Gobi, and I didn't expect to encounter a sandstorm again. I always feel that something is not right in this secret place in the back mountain. Why do accidents happen every day? That's right, I've only been in there for 3 days and I wasted 2 days in vain. It seems that someone saw the monster in the sandstorm. It was huge and very scary. I also heard that someone was caught in a sandstorm and caught randomly, and actually caught a high-level soul stone the size of a palm. More and more students appeared on the back mountain, and they were talking a lot. As one of the initiators of this sandstorm, Yi Hao originally listened with interest, but when he heard that someone had obtained a high-level soul stone in the sandstorm, his expression instantly became extremely ugly. Sure enough, it was still exposed. It was obvious that the earth dragon brought out the high-grade soul stones from the underground mines when it stirred up a sandstorm. Thinking of this, Yi Hao, who was still a bit lucky, now has absolutely no choice. I believe that before long, after confirming the location of the mineral vein, entry into the primary secret realm will be restricted. Forget it, it's none of my business anymore. Yi Hao sighed softly when he saw that a teacher had come to see what happened. Then he turned and walked towards the school gate. Sign in successfully, congratulations on getting the intermediate talent, double attack. Double attack, intermediate talent, the next attack will cause 200% damage, cooling time, 10 minutes. Level 1, upgrade requirements, kill 10 first level monsters. After signing in at the intermediate level, will the talent signed in be the intermediate talent? After midnight, Yi Hao directly chose to sign in. This time he directly obtained the intermediate talent. Moreover, the conditions for upgrading this intermediate talent are a bit simple. Looking at the upgrade requirement for double attack, Yi Hao showed a trace of curiosity on his face. As long as 10 first-level monsters are killed, the double attack talent can be upgraded to level 2. By then, the damage bonus will probably be even more terrifying. For him, killing a first-level monster is easy. Go to the secret realm and try it tomorrow. Thinking of this, Yi Hao closed his eyes with satisfaction. Early the next morning, as expected, Yi Hao saw Zhang Sa again in his living room. Last night, all the students in the secret realm in the back mountain were kicked out. It seems that the mineral vein must have been discovered. Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao with helplessness on his face. He deeply regretted not persisting for a while. It was only a matter of time before it was discovered, but I didn't expect it to be discovered so quickly. Yi Hao sighed slightly. That vein is a high-grade soul stone vein, and our school probably won't be able to swallow it. Zhang Sa shook his head and expressed a different view. It seems that our school is going to be at the forefront. Yi Hao could already imagine the next great scene of Anhai No. 1 Middle School. It is estimated that before long, other big forces will come to Anhai No. 1 Middle School and want a piece of the pie. If it was just a primary soul stone vein, Anhai No. 1 Middle School would definitely be able to eat it. But this is not a primary soul stone vein, nor an intermediate soul stone vein, but a high-level soul stone vein. Definitely not something a high school student can swallow alone. Therefore, the moment the mineral vein was discovered, it was already targeted by other major forces. Are you still going to school? Zhang Sa looked at Yi Hao. Practicing in the secret realm was much faster than practicing in Blue Star. Recently, he has been visiting his father's safe every day. He has eaten all the edible pills in it, and he is only one step away from reaching 10 health. If he were in a secret realm, he would probably be able to break through to the realm of a warrior in an instant. When a battle breaks out, he will be able to stand with Yi Hao and fight side by side. No, let's go to the official secret place in the wild. Yi Hao thought for a while and then said, nowadays, the secret realm in the back mountain is blocked, and the level of another secret realm in the school is too high. They dare not enter at all, so it doesn't matter whether they go to the school or not. In the wild, there are many officially controlled public secrets, with free entry time every day. After the free period has passed, you can also use soul stones to renew. It's just that basically all the treasures in the official secret realm have been picked by them, and very few are left behind. It's a pity that even so, the price of the official low-level secret realm is not cheap, and it also requires 100 low-level soul stones for an hour. Of course, you can also choose to buy 1000 low-level soul stones for the whole day. That's all it can do. Zhang Sa said helplessly. Let's go. After eating and drinking, Yi Hao put everything he wanted to bring into the space ring and was ready to get up and set off. Well, let's go. Zhang Sa wiped his mouth and stood up. After I came out of the secret realm yesterday, I told the class teacher, and then went to the teaching office again to verify my talent. Now I am a student in the Tianzhao class. While walking, Zhang Sa said. When he came to the elevator, Yi Hao pressed the button for the first floor. After hearing that Zhang Sa had joined the Tianzhao class, a trace of curiosity appeared on his face. How is the Tianzhao class? Have you been there? Zhang Sa nodded and explained. After I was confirmed to enter the Tianzhao class, a teacher pulled me into a small group, which contained all the high-level talent holders and above in this class. I have not been to the specific class. It is said that just like ordinary classes, if something happens, the teacher of the Tianzhao class will directly notify the group in the group, and the same is true for the notification of resource distribution. But what is a bit strange is that there is a junior talent owner in the small group, but no one knows the specific talent. Quote. When talking about junior talents, Zhang Sa looked at his good brother subconsciously. Yi Hao's strength is not weak. He is now a true warrior and a junior talent. Since other junior talent holders can enter the Tianzhao class, Yi Hao can naturally do the same. Elementary talent. Yi Hao's eyes flashed with surprise when he heard that junior talents could also join the genius class. The minimum standard for joining the genius class is high-level talent, and since the school allows a low-level talent owner to join it, it means that the effect of this low-level talent is at least comparable to that of high-level talent. The fact that a junior talent can be comparable to a high-level talent already means that it is extraordinary. Zhang Sa saw the strange movement in Yi Hao's eyes, lightly touched him with his shoulder, and said with a smile. Would you like to try it too? My talents are a little different, so forget it. Yi Hao shook his head and declined his kindness. Actually, I have discovered a long time ago that your level has improved so fast that even a junior talent is extraordinary. Since you don't want to go to the genius class, then you can stay in the ordinary class. Zhang Sa said with a smile. He regarded Yi Hao and the junior talent holder in the Tianzhao class as the same kind of people. By the way, who is the one with the highest level in the Tianzhao class now? Yi Hao looked at Zhang Sa curiously. He wanted to compare the gap between himself and the strongest person in the Tianzhao class. Obviously, Bai Ling is a third-level warrior, but secretly, I don't know. There are several people in the Tianzhao group who have never made a move. If I don't know, there are people who are stronger than Bai Ling. Zhang Sa's eyes were full of envy, but he also thought about it. Not to mention Bai Ling, who eats qi and blood pills like candy every day. Most of the other disciples of the Tianzhao class are from aristocratic families, and a handful of them have signed contracts with aristocratic families and received resources from aristocratic families. The advanced talent of Fury can provide a 70% increase in all attributes at level 1. If the upgrade conditions were not very stringent, even if it is rated as a super talent, it would not be an exaggeration. Zhang Sa, who possesses high-level violence, may be favored by many aristocratic families. At that time, it will be seen whether Zhang Sa can withstand the temptation. After all, sending girls and money is the basic operation of aristocratic families. Do you know what Bai Ling's talent is? Hearing that the strongest person had reached the third level of warrior, Yi Hao breathed a sigh of relief. At least he and the other party were at the same level. But when he thought about the other party's talent, he was also very curious. When the elevator reached the first floor, the two of them walked out slowly. When they saw that there was no one else on the road, Zhang Sa whispered. The teacher is not allowed to mention Bai Ling's talent in the group, but in private, some disciples from the Tianzhao class have seen Bai Ling take action, with a pair of pure white wings on his body. When attacking, it was like an angel descending into the world, waving out a blazing holy light at will, and killed a white feathered swallow. Quote, Bai Yuyan, once she reaches adulthood, possesses peak first-level strength, coupled with the ability to fly. Even some second-level monsters do not dare to easily provoke her. Bai Ling can kill instantly with one strike, which is enough to show how powerful the opponent is. Have advanced super talent, Angel Wings. Yi Hao instantly found a talent similar to it in his memory, and that was only Angel Wings. He is also very clear about the horror of this talent. Even if it is just 2 wings, it can double one's combat power, which is the norm. In other words, as long as he uses his angel wings, Bai Ling's combat power can be doubled, his health will not be lost, and he can even maintain this state forever. Unlike Zhang Sa's violent state, it not only consumes a lot of energy and blood to maintain, but also consumes a lot of mental power over time, and he simply cannot last long. Maybe this is the difference between advanced talents and super talents. What's more important is that as the realm improves, the double-winged angel talent will evolve into extraordinary talent, even king-level, emperor-level talent, into 4 wings, 6 wings, 8 wings, and the combat power will continue to increase, with the possibilities are endless. This was the reason why Yi Hao was shocked. This year's martial arts test is interesting. Thinking that he had such a powerful opponent, Yi Hao couldn't help laughing. I'll go, there's something like this. Not long after he stepped out of the elevator, Zhang Sa's cell phone rang with a message. He opened it and found that it was actually from the small group of Tianzhao class. When he saw the message clearly, he was a little stunned. What's wrong? Seeing Zhang Sa's expression, Yi Hao asked curiously. The teacher of the Tianzhao class wants us to work as coolies in that high-level soul master mine, but he is actually not willing to pay us a single wage. Zhang Sa handed the phone to Yi Hao and couldn't help but complain. Yi Hao looked at the messages on his phone and said with a smile. The energy contained in the high-level soul master's veins is dozens of times that of the outside world. Even if you only mine in it, your realm will rise several times faster than the outside world, which is a good thing for you. You see, more than half of the people have already signed up. Quote. After speaking, Yi Hao returned the phone to Zhang Sa. I kind of don't want to go. Zhang Sa scratched his head. He still wanted to stay with Yi Hao. Go ahead. The high-level soul stone absorbs too slowly for you. The energy in the veins is just right for you, and you can be lazy. The teachers won't keep an eye on you anyway, and it won't be a problem even if they find out. Yi Hao suggested with a smile. In fact, what he said is correct. Mining is just an excuse. Whoever digs is not digging. Why should students from the Tianzhao class go? It's not to improve their realm faster. Okay, I'll listen to you. After listening to Yi Hao's proposal, Zhang Sa nodded. Then I would like to congratulate you in advance on becoming a warrior. Yi Hao said with a smile. Haha, I'll leave first if I lend you some good words. After listening to Yi Hao's words, Zhang Sa nodded happily. After waving his hand, he walked towards the school. Yi Hao looked at Zhang Sa's leaving figure, and then walked in the opposite direction. Master, go to Secret Realm number 1 in the suburbs. Yi Hao was on the road, stretched out his hand to hail a taxi and got in. Now he has a lot of money, so he is extravagant and takes a taxi. After seeing Yi Hao coming up, the driver smiled and said, "Young man, you are quite capable. You actually dare to go to Secret Realm No. 1. Secret Realm number 1 is the number 1 secret realm among all the official secret realms in the suburbs of Anhai City. Although it is only a primary secret realm, the danger level inside is far higher than other secret realms. Therefore, those who can go to Secret Realm number 1 are basically pretty good. I plan to hunt monsters and increase my practical experience." Yi Hao also echoed. Afterwards, he and the driver started chatting at length. In the process of chatting, the driver uncle also sent him to his destination. "Young man, we're here," the driver said with a smile. "Okay." Yi Hao glanced at the meter, and after paying the fare happily, he opened the door and walked towards the entrance of Secret Realm No. 1. "Do you have an appointment?" As soon as Yi Hao approached the mist, a middle-aged man in uniform walked out of the small house next to him and stopped him. After seeing Yi Hao's young face, his attitude became much gentler. "I have made an appointment online. Look, this is my appointment information." Yi Hao nodded, then took out his mobile phone and handed the screenshot and order number that he had paid online to the middle-aged man in front of him. "Okay, I'll check it and you can go in." After picking up Yi Hao's cell phone, the middle-aged man opened his own cell phone and checked Yi Hao's information. After a while, the middle-aged man confirmed Yi Hao's information, and a smile appeared on his face. "Okay, your information has been confirmed, you can go in." Yi Hao directly purchased the package this time, spending 1,000 low-level soul stones. Therefore, you can go in directly without any other requirements. Anyway, in 24 hours, the heavenly law of the secret realm will kick him out. Those who have free time and those who have purchased for less than a day will be marked by a middle-aged man. After the stipulated time, heaven will discover the marks in their bodies and drive them out. This is also to prevent people from staying in the secret realm too much and wasting resources. Thanks. Yi Hao nodded, picked up his mobile phone, put in the space ring, and walked towards the mysterious portal. Not long after, he disappeared in place. I don't know which middle school student is actually so powerful. I remember that I didn't even have a week to awaken my talent in my senior year of high school. He has actually reached the 3rd level of warrior strength, and his mental power seems a bit unusual, which is really interesting. Quote. The middle-aged man looked at Yi Hao's disappearing figure, his face full of curiosity. He had just subconsciously checked the energy and blood in Yi Hao's body, and discovered that the other party had reached the 3rd level of a warrior. What made him even more curious was that the other party's mental power was far beyond that of ordinary people. Really good. It's so cold. As soon as Yi Hao opened his eyes, he found that he had appeared in a damp cave. The walls of the cave are covered with gems shining with strange colors, exuding a dim light and dotting everything around them. The dark wind blowing from nowhere made Yi Hao couldn't help but shudder. Fortunately, I have prepared in advance. Yi Hao quickly took out the warm clothes he had prepared from his space ring and put them on. Fortunately, he did his homework in advance, otherwise he would freeze to death down here. Yi Hao looked at the surrounding environment, and after thinking for a while, he continued to move forward. Not long after, there were 7 or 8 forks in the road ahead. Forget it, just go. Yi Hao looked at the fork in the road in front of him and walked directly towards the fork in front of him without stopping at all. Anyway, for him, it's the same everywhere. Hiss. Suddenly, a green spider web shot towards Yi Hao, trying to trap him. How could Yi Hao, who was extremely focused, be caught in this spider web? He jumped immediately and avoided the spider web attack. Let the spider webs shoot to the ground. The next second, the ground made a hissing sound, and not long after, a small green pit appeared on the ground. Seeing this scene, Yi Hao frowned slightly. It's so toxic. Then, he looked not far away. A spider with a dark green body and 8 legs covered with barbs, locking its huge body firmly to the wall of the cave. At this time, it was staring at Yi Hao, wanting to tie him up and make him his food. Crypt spider. Seeing the spider in front of him, Yi Hao could tell the identity of the other party at a glance. The crypt spider is a first-order monster that likes to live in the dark underground, and its webs contain highly poisonous substances. The poisoned person will gradually lose consciousness and eventually become food for burrowing spiders. Hiss. The crypt spider attacked again, green poisonous webs rushing towards Yi Hao. This time it blocked all the directions in which Yi Hao could escape. It didn't believe it and couldn't kill the opponent this time. Rise. Looking at the poisonous net rushing towards him, Yi Hao used his mental power to instantly scan the surrounding environment. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Jumping directly to the cave wall on the side, the majestic energy and blood poured into his hands, and his hands were directly inserted into the cave wall in front of him. With a roar, he exerted great force and actually dug out a huge boulder from the wall of the cave. The next second, the boulder in his hand was raised high and hit the cave spider not far away. Those poison nets were also blocked by this boulder. Seeing the boulder coming towards him, the cave spider quickly moved its body, and the 8 spider legs under its feet danced crazily, quickly dodging it. When it stopped and continued to look at the ground, it found that the human figure was indeed not found. The eyes on the top of its head frantically scanned everything around it, trying to find the human figure. But that human seemed to have disappeared, making it very impatient. Double attack. When the opponent was avoiding the boulder, Yi Hao predicted the opponent's escape path in advance, so he waited there in advance. This is also the reason why the crypt spider did not find him. By the time the crypt spider found Yi Hao had successfully arrived in front of it and launched his own attack. But this time, he directly used his intermediate talent, double attack. Let your attacks cause double damage. Double attack plus artistic conception Teizu Chengquan. Even a peak-level monster would not dare to take this blow easily, let alone the underground spider in front of him who had already been approached by Yi Hao. With just one punch, a huge hole was punched out in Yi Hao's chest. Feeling the rapid passing of life, the crypt spider waved its 8 spider legs crazily, but it still didn't help. It could only watch its breath slowly disappear. In the end, the 8 spider legs no longer had any power, and the huge body fell from the cave wall, hitting the ground heavily, leaving a medium-sized deep pit. The first level 1 monster. Seeing the double attack upgrade requirement, a goal had been completed, and a smile appeared on Yi Hao's face. Better than nothing. After Yi Hao took out the inner elixir of the cave spider, he threw the opponent's body on the spot. So lucky. Just in case, Yi Hao learned to be smart this time and directly released his mental power to sense everything around him. Suddenly, a huge object appeared in his mind, making him dumbfounded. It was a snow-white worm with densely packed tentacles growing all over its body. At this time, it was sleeping in the cave wall not far away. If it weren't for the huge mental power he possessed, he might not have noticed the other party's existence at all, and would have missed it directly. Second level. Yi Hao slowly approached and finally sensed the other party's breath from his weak breath. Slowing down his pace slightly. With his current strength, he still cannot achieve an instant kill against the second level. What is the difference between this and dying? This is. Yi Hao, who was about to leave, reluctantly sensed the second-order worm not far away again, and this time he sensed special energy fluctuations. How is this possible? After seeing clearly where the energy fluctuation came from, Yi Hao's eyes showed a hint of disbelief. He actually found an awakening stone here, and from the looks of it, this awakening stone has not been activated yet. Much like the legendary original awakening stone. But we won't know the details until he takes it out. If it is really the original awakening stone, this means that if he obtains this awakening stone, he will be able to awaken his second talent. Looking at the huge stone pressed by the worm, Yi Hao could hardly imagine what level of talent he could awaken with this giant awakening stone. Blue Star's awakening stone was also obtained in the secret realm. The awakening stones they used to awaken in school are all a small part cut off from the original awakening stone. But even so, there are only a dozen awakening stones in the huge Anhai city number. 1 middle school. The awakening stone in front of me is very complete. It is simply a primitive awakening stone that has never been activated. The extremely rich power of awakening means that it can give Yi Hao a second chance to awaken his talent, and the awakened talent level will definitely not be low. Come back when the double attack is upgraded. Yi Hao, who originally wanted to take action directly, took a look at his talent and decided to wait until his double attack talent advanced. Anyway, there were only 9 first-level monsters left. When the time comes, you will have the ability to kill instantly with one hit, and you will not be afraid of overturning. In fact, Yi Hao was afraid that if he did not have the absolute strength to crush the opponent, when the time came to fight, the aftermath of the battle would affect the awakening stone. As a result, the awakening stone is broken, and the awakening power inside is gone, and it is easy to lose more than the gain. Let's make a mark first. Thinking of this, Yi Hao took out the jade piece from the space ring and buried the black jade piece nearby, so as not to forget how to go by then. After doing all this, he nodded with satisfaction and moved on. A blood-red earth dragon more than 6 meters long emerged from the soil and pounced directly on Yi Hao, trying to bite his head into pieces. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Looking at the earth dragon who took the initiative to attack, the corners of Yi Hao's mouth curled up slightly, as he was afraid that the opponent would not attack. After all, he doesn't know how to escape. Once the opponent escapes, there is nothing he can do. However, since the other party chose to take the initiative, he naturally would not give up this opportunity. Double attack. Looking at the talent that had cooled down, Yi Hao directly struck out with Teizu Long Fist. A vague figure also appeared behind him. Puff! Earth Dragon sensed a fatal threat and wanted to escape, but it was already too late. It could only watch helplessly as the fist continued to enlarge in front of it. Then, his head was punched by Yi Hao and turned into pulp. With this little strength, I dare to sneak attack. Yi Hao looked at the earth dragon in front of him with disdain, and then threw it into his space ring. Unlike the previous crypt spider, the earth dragon is full of treasures. One more to go. In the past few hours, Yi Hao has killed a total of 9 first-level monsters. With one more first-level monster, his double attack talent can be upgraded to level 2. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. It smells so good. Suddenly, an exciting aroma floated from a distance and slowly drifted towards Yi Hao. He sniffed the smell gently, and immediately felt that his energy was greatly boosted, and even his blood was boiling a lot, and he couldn't help but sigh in admiration. No, this is a talent effect. Soon, Yi Hao noticed something was wrong. The scent was very much like a human being had activated his talent. Because Yi Hao felt that his combat power had been increased, which was clearly an auxiliary talent. It's the potpourri talent. Yi Hao quickly found the origin of this talent from his memory. Great coverage. Yi Hao opened his mental power and quickly found the initiator of this talent, and couldn't help but praise him. The opponent is still 100 meters away from him, but the opponent's talent can still affect him. It is indeed a super talent. Injured. Yi Hao then discovered that the owner of the potpourri talent was actually injured. The other person's pants were torn, revealing a piece of snow, and there was a huge gash on his leg. He didn't know what caused the bite. Fortunately, the other party stopped bleeding and just passed out, nothing serious. Let's go take a look first. Although it seems that the other party is not in serious trouble now, the cave is full of monsters. If you are unlucky, the monster will probably sense it in the next second, and this little girl will definitely be torn into pieces by the monster. The owner of a super talent is a powerful medicine for those monsters, no less than swallowing a third-level heavenly material and earthly treasure. Thinking of this, Yi Hao decided to go take a look first, at least to ensure the safety of the other party. Possessors of super talents are very rare. Of course, it is absolutely impossible that Yi Hao decided to save the other party because he saw the other party's appearance through his mental power. Tisk, tisk, I don't know who bit it. Yi Hao looked at the dense blood on the snow-white thighs and suddenly felt his scalp numb. Fortunately, this little girl took the antidote in advance. Otherwise, before he arrived, the poison in her legs would have killed her in advance. You're lucky. Yi Hao looked at his space ring and took out a dark green gall. This was the gall he had just gotten out of a poisonous snake he had killed. Although the opponent's body is full of deadly toxins, its gall is a treasure that can detoxify most of the toxins. I originally planned to sell it, but now I can only cheapen the little girl's film in front of me. This little girl's movie is really good. At this time, Yi Hao took a serious look at the other person's face. It was delicate and small, with a little bit of baby fat. Perhaps due to the poisoning, the fair cheeks now looked pale with only a trace of blood. As if he had noticed something, the tightly closed eyes trembled slightly, looking pitiful. The girl in front of him seemed to be the only girl Yi Hao had ever seen who looked similar to Bai Ling. I'm offended. Looking at the other party's slightly twitching lips, Yi Hao retracted his emotions and said softly. Then, he directly opened the girl's mouth and stuffed the gall in his hand directly into the girl's throat. Then he moved his energy and blood, wrapped the gall, and sent it into the girl's abdomen. You have guys coming to your door so quickly. Yi Hao gently picked up the girl and leaned her against the stone wall. The quilt prepared early was also covered on the other party's body. Just when he was thinking about what to do next, he suddenly looked not far away, with a hint of surprise on his face. Incandescent ant. It was a giant ant with a faint white light all over its body. It was huge, like a huge calf. At this time, it was staring at the girl behind Yi Hao. It can feel that the other person's body exudes a smell that it can't refuse. If he swallows that girl, he will definitely be able to raise his realm to the second level in a short period of time. At that time, it will be able to monopolize the queen ant and become the king of the entire incandescent ant clan. When it thought that it would be able to have the queen all to itself in the future, it couldn't help but become fanatical and rushed towards it regardless of the situation. Are you crazy? Looking at the incandescent ant that had completely fallen into madness, Yi Hao frowned slightly. He just wanted to escape, but when he thought about the girl behind him, he couldn't retreat any further. I could only rush forward. Roll. Fortunately, the incandescent ants in front of us are not too powerful. With the blessing of artistic conception, his Teizu Chengquan exerted great power. With one punch, the incandescent ant in front of him was directly blasted out, flew out, and hit the cave wall hard. After a few twitches, the incandescent ant lost its breath. As this death, Yi Hao looked at the motionless incandescent ants on the wall of the cave with a trace of astonishment on his face. He didn't expect that his punch would directly kill the incandescent ant in front of him. No matter how small an ant is, it is still meat. Looking at the incandescent ant on the wall of the cave, Yi Hao thought for a while and finally put it back into his space ring. After all, it is a first-order monster, and at least it can be exchanged for today's tickets. It must have been attracted by this guy's talent. There was something strange in Yi Hao's eyes. The other party's talent seemed to be in a state of activation all the time, and it was precisely because of this that he was attracted to him. Correspondingly, it also attracted the attention of the monster. It looks like I can sit here and wait for the monster to come. Yi Hao chuckled, using the girl in front of him as bait to attract the monsters. It should be upgraded. Then, Yi Hao thought of the most important thing, which was his double attack talent. Double attack. Intermediate talent. The next attack will cause 250% damage, cooldown, 9 minutes. Level 2. Upgrade requirements. Kill 21st level monsters. The damage has been increased by 50%, which is a bit low. The cooling time has been reduced by 1 minute, which is good. Hey, as long as we kill 20 more first level monsters, can we upgrade to level 3? After seeing the information about the double attack talent, Yi Hao summarized it. When he saw that to upgrade to level 3, he only needed to kill 20 more first level monsters, he subconsciously looked at the girl on the ground. It should be okay. Yi Hao looked at the girl he had used as bait, with a hint of embarrassment on his face. But when he thought that he had saved the other person's life, this embarrassing emotion disappeared without a trace in an instant. Coming. Seeing another incandescent ant appear, Yi Hao's face was filled with excitement. Soon, the incandescent ant in front of him ran into the path of his brother. Next, Yi Hao met many first-order monsters one after another, among which incandescent ants were the most numerous, accounting for most of the targets he killed. There should be a colony of incandescent ants near here. Yi Hao took the incandescent ant in front of him back into the space ring and looked thoughtfully not far away. It's a pity that the little girl hasn't woken up yet, otherwise he would go directly to the ant colony. Maybe by this time, the double attack would have been upgraded to level 4. That's right, He just killed 21st level monsters again, increased the double attack to level 3, the cooldown time became 8 minutes, and at the same time, the damage increase became 300%. In other words, his next attack will cause triple damage. However, if you want to level up again, you need to kill 41st level monsters. That's why he wanted to go to the ant colony. It's almost early morning. Yi Hao looked at the time, then at the sleeping girl, and frowned slightly. If the other person wasn't still breathing, he would have suspected that the other person was already cold. Chapter 31. In the early morning, Yi Hao could sign in. He looked up at the girl not far away and found that she was still sleeping, so he chose to sign in. Sign in successfully. Congratulations on getting 100 points of defense equivalent to the physical defense of a second-level peak realm monster. After being promoted to the intermediate talent level, are the rewards for signing in so rough? Yi Hao looked at the 100 defense points he had just obtained, although he didn't feel any big changes in his body. But with 100 points of mental power ahead, the current 100 defense power is naturally real, but he can't play its true role now. If these 100 attribute points were added to someone else, he would definitely denounce the other person. But if this kind of thing happens to him, his only request is to let the storm come more violently and let him enjoy this pain alone. The defensive power of the second-level peak monster means that it is basically immune to all the attacks of the martial artist. Then I can go sideways in this martial arts test. Looking at the explanation inside the buckle number, Yi Hao smiled so hard that his mouth broke out. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Zhou Shi felt a hint of coldness and subconsciously pulled the quilt on his body to cover the exposed part. The next second, she realized something was wrong and opened her eyes sharply. Only then did she remember that she seemed to have been attacked by monsters just now and was seriously injured. But now that I am in a warm quilt, all this seems too abnormal and unreal. Is it possible that I have gone to hell? Why do I feel so warm? Feeling the warmth coming from the quilt, Zhou Shi couldn't help but shrink into the quilt. But her eyes were full of death, very gray and dull. Because at this time, she already subconsciously thought that she was dead. Everything now is just her fantasy before she died. Just like the little match girl, after lighting the last match, she went to heaven. Hey, you're not dead yet. Just give me the quilt back when you wake up. In order to prevent accidents, Yi Hao has been using his mental power to watch everything around him at all times to prevent monsters from suddenly attacking. Therefore, the moment the girl woke up, he discovered it immediately. But when he heard the girl's muttering, a dark line appeared on his face, so he walked over and quickly reminded her. I'm not dead. Zhou Shi looked at the young man in front of him, his eyes gradually gained a glimmer of light, and he was so excited that he threw himself into Yi Hao's arms. After feeling the breath of a living person and the beating heart, she quickly pulled out of Yi Hao's arms, and her originally pale face and ears became a little more rosy. I didn't expect it, it's quite unexpected. Yi Hao felt the vastness of the sea, but lost the sea in an instant, and couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Zhou Shi also felt that what he had just done was a bit reckless and wanted to stand up and apologize to Yi Hao, but he forgot that his leg was injured. As soon as she moved, a sharp pain came from her leg, and she gasped in pain. She wanted to scream out, but she bit her lip tightly with her silver teeth. For some reason, she didn't want to show her bad side to the boy in front of her. Okay, just lie down and don't make the wound serious. Yi Hao frowned slightly, then helped the other person sit down. Thank you for saving me. Zhou Shi looked deeply at the young man in front of him, wanting to remember the other person's appearance firmly in his heart, and spoke with sincerity and seriousness. Before she was poisoned and passed out, she activated her talent in order to attract the attention of others. If the first one to come was a monster, she would be dead. Fortunately, the first one to come was the young man in front of her. It was the other party who saved her. Therefore, she was very grateful to the young man in front of her. Yi Hao sat aside and glanced at the other party, but did not take the other party's words into his heart. As for repaying a favor, the girl just now was used as bait, but she attracted a lot of first-order monsters to him. For him, this was repaying his kindness. However, he still didn't quite understand. Your teacher should have taught you that when you encounter danger that threatens your life, you should exit the secret realm immediately. Why didn't you quit when you were injured before? After hearing the other party's doubts, Joshi raised his right hand. She struggled to pull up her sleeves, revealing a snow-white arm with a light red mark on it. Joshi looked at the light red mark and said helplessly to Yi Hao, "Because of this mark, I cannot voluntarily exit the secret realm. I can only get out after being kicked out by heaven within 24 hours. Have you offended someone?" Yi Hao looked at the light red mark and was a little curious. Joshi shook his head. "This is the mark planted on me by the elders of my clan." "Then you have offended the clan elder." Yi Hao became more gossiping and moved closer. Joshi explained in a dumbfounded way, "I didn't offend the clan elders, in fact this is a test in the family. When the direct descendants of our Zhou clan reach a certain age, they will be imprinted by the clan elders and then thrown into the secret realm. Only by staying in the secret realm for enough time and getting out alive can you continue to be nurtured by your family. However, this time my luck was a bit unlucky. As soon as I entered the secret realm, I was teleported to the lair of the life-destroying peak. I exhausted all my defense methods before escaping from the lair. If it weren't for you, I might have been swallowed by those monsters." Quote, "It turns out that the wounds on your legs were all caused by deadly bee bites. Why are there so many small wounds?" After listening to Zhou Zai's explanation, Yi Hao nodded in realization. Although ordinary death-killing bees have not entered the level, they can sacrifice their lives without any hesitation in order to protect their nests. Suicidal attacks, even high-level monsters do not dare to provoke them easily. The tail spines they use to attack contain toxins. Once a certain dose accumulates in the body, even second-level monsters will suffer serious consequences. I guess it will take me a long time to practice next time." Joshi gently stroked his calf, looked at the wound on it, and sighed. But suddenly, she felt a fiery gaze looking at her, and she quickly covered the quilt again, and her neck instantly turned red. Yi Hao coughed lightly and changed the subject. "You are an innate awakener, right?" He could sense that the girl in front of him was definitely not 18. But if there is no 18-year-old who has awakened his talent, then there are only those who are innately awakened. "I am indeed awakened innately." Joshi did not choose to hide his benefactor, Yi Hao, and nodded honestly. The innate awakened person refers to the kind of warrior who can independently awaken his talent without relying on the awakening stone. "Take your talent back, another monster is here." Yi Hao didn't expect that the girl in front of him was so frank. Just as he was about to continue saying something, he felt a first-order monster coming towards them. Then, he looked at the girl, frowned slightly, and reminded her. "I'm sorry, I forgot. I will take my talent back now." Joshi apologized repeatedly, his eyes full of apology, and quickly took back his potpourri talent. It was hard for her to imagine how much trouble her talent had brought to the other party when she was in a coma. "It's the incandescent ants again." Seeing the monster appearing around the corner, Yi Hao could no longer remember which incandescent ant he had killed. He randomly picked up a fist-sized stone, wrapped it with the blood in his body, and then threw it violently. With the double attack bonus, even an ordinary stone becomes a life-killing weapon at this time. Whoosh! This stone has penetrated the incandescent ant's head, killing him in an instant. So strong. Seeing the incandescent ant that was killed instantly, Joshi became more and more curious about Yi Hao. Being able to kill first-level monsters in an instant is a strength comparable to that of some of her direct descendants in the family. With such strength, it's no wonder that she was able to spend the whole night quietly without even feeling the slightest movement. If she had such great strength, she wouldn't be chased by those killer bees. Unfortunately, her talent is an auxiliary talent and does not have much bonus in combat. "My time is almost up." Joshi looked at Yi Hao, who came back, and said softly. "Then remember to take good care of yourself after you go out." Yi Hao nodded. After the other party leaves, he can hunt the giant worm. Joshi took the initiative and said, "Leave your contact information and I'll add you when I get out." Okay. Yi Hao did not refuse and exchanged contact information with the other party. "Let's get to know my name again, Joshi." Joshi stretched out her fair right hand and looked at Yi Hao expectantly. Yi Hao. Yi Hao did not choose to hide it. "Hee, see you next time." Joshi had a smile on his eyebrows, and then disappeared into a rain of light. "Joshi, this little girl shouldn't be from this city." Yi Hao looked at the place where the other party disappeared and fell into deep thought. In Blue Star, the only thing more terrifying than the aristocratic family is the family. Their relationship is crisscrossed and very complicated. Any family that can become a climate has basically existed for hundreds of years. Zhou, this is a common surname. But in Anhai City, he had never heard of such a wealthy family with the surname Zhou. Forget it, why are you thinking so much? Yi Hao smiled with relief. No matter how powerful the family was, it had nothing to do with him. The most important thing for him now is to kill the giant worm, then take the original awakening stone and awaken his second talent. Thinking of this, he walked directly in the direction of the giant worm. Why did you take away my quilt? Yi Hao suddenly discovered a very important thing. The quilt he had lent to Zhou Shi, the little girl, was actually taken away by the other party. You know, that's what he usually uses to sleep. It's a pity that the little girl has gone very far now, and he can't exit the secret realm now. He can only wait until the next time he meets her before asking for it. He had a hunch that this time would definitely not be the last time the two of them met. There are so many forks underground. Fortunately, Yi Hao left the jade piece, otherwise he really wouldn't be able to find that guy. As the two pieces of jade attracted each other, Yi Hao soon came to the location of the giant worm. It can only kill with one hit. Yi Hao just wanted to dig into the stone wall in front of him, but suddenly he thought that his digging would probably disturb the worms inside. When the opponent's Tudun escapes, he will have no choice. Thinking of this result, he also quickly stopped his actions. Maybe you can use your own mental power. Yi Hao suddenly thought of the video of the Soul Master he saw on Douyin, using his mental power to turn it into a golden sword, and then killing the Demon King. Now his mental power is far beyond that of ordinary people, and has even turned into liquid. As long as we think of a way and materialize it, we can kill the giant worm in front of us in an instant. Thinking of this, Yi Hao sat cross-legged on the ground, intending to materialize part of his mental power. Perhaps because his mental power was strong enough and his talent had advanced, it didn't take long for Yi Hao to materialize part of his mental power this time. A strange object that was rough and could be seen as a sword slowly appeared in front of Yi Hao. Ugly, it's a bit ugly, but it is indeed the result of spiritual power. Yi Hao looked at the small sword in front of him, feeling helpless. But there is no way. With his current strength, he can only substantively transform his mental power into this form, and there is no way to make it more refined. Fortunately, the spiritual power was successfully materialized, which meant that Yi Hao could use his mental power to kill the giant worm. Go! Yi Hao directly controlled the small sword in front of him, and then waved his right hand. The little sword went straight through the stone wall in front of him, as simple as searching a bag to retrieve an object, and stabbed directly at the giant worm under the stone wall, heading straight for the opponent's head. The giant worm had no time to react and could only watch as the small sword penetrated into his sea of consciousness. What a small sea of consciousness! After Yi Hao entered the opponent's sea of consciousness, he found that his own sea of consciousness was at least 100 times that of the other party. The spiritual power inside is also pitiful. It's no wonder that even a second-level monster's mental power is simply not as good as that of a human of the same level. It is reflected in the size of the sea of consciousness. At the same level, the upper limit of mental power that humans can contain is several times, even dozens of times higher than that of monsters. After all, the lower limit of the sea of consciousness is there, and it is much easier for humans to improve. But if a monster wants to improve its spiritual power and consciousness, it will be much more difficult. Perhaps this is because of the differences between species. But the monster beast also has something that makes humans envious, and that is the opponent's physical body. Unlike humans, if you want to improve your physical body, you must practice corresponding body refining martial arts. Otherwise, just relying on the bonus of realm improvement, the improvement of the physical body is negligible. But monster beasts are different. Their bodies will continue to grow and evolve as their realm and even age increases. It is precisely because of this that monsters of the same level can easily crush warriors. Only those warriors with powerful talents or those who have practiced martial arts to a high level can barely kill a monster of the same level. Most warriors are just ordinary people. They don't have so much resources and energy to practice advanced martial arts. Therefore, in a single fight, ordinary warriors are no match for monsters. Of course, the Blue Star people are not that ignorant. Since I can't defeat you alone, then there will be no problem if a group of us can defeat you alone. Slowly, the special existence of groups slowly appeared in the eyes of the world. It finally worked. Yi Hao controlled the small sword and kept messing around in the opponent's sea of consciousness. In just a few breaths, the giant worm's sea of consciousness was chopped into pieces by Yi Hao. The souls of low-level monsters, including low-level warriors, are in the sea of consciousness. Once the sea of consciousness is broken, the souls will also dissipate. Not long after the sea of consciousness was shattered and the soul dissipated, the life breath on the giant worm slowly weakened until there was no life breath at all, which meant that the giant worm was dead. Seeing this scene, Yi Hao also breathed a sigh of relief. Things were just as he expected, without any surprises. This was what made him happiest. Then, he took out the hoe from his space ring and began to dig into the stone wall in front of him. Someone is actually here. Yi Hao, who was digging, sensed through his mental power that 3 humans were walking towards this side. He looked up and saw that nearly half of the stone wall had been excavated by himself. After thinking about it for a while, he didn't pay much attention to it, so he continued to dig. If those 3 people dared to attack him, he did not recommend taking out the other 3. After all, with his current strength, he can already walk sideways in this low-level secret realm. With 100 defense points, he is immune to all attacks below level 3. The low-level secret realm where the tallest person can withstand the existence of the second-level peak monster beast is now like a back garden in his eyes. Second child, third child, look at it. Not long after, 3 middle-aged men came to the branch where Yi Hao was. After all, Yi Hao never concealed his digging voice. So after hearing the sound, the 3 of them rushed over quickly. The leader's eyes suddenly lit up when he saw Yi Hao, who was constantly digging. With a sinister smile on his face, he looked at the 2 brothers behind him. The meaning contained in it was instantly understood by the 2 brothers. Well, boss, I saw it. The second and third children looked at each other and saw a hint of greed in each other's eyes. After receiving the boss's order, the 3 of them also gathered in the direction where Yi Hao was in a tacit understanding. Little brother, what are you digging for? As the boss, Sun Lihai came to Yi Hao, forced a fake smile on his face, and said. He wanted to first figure out what the little guy in front of him was digging for. After you figure it out, it's too late to take action. In his opinion, such a young guy couldn't make any trouble in front of these 3 powerful warriors. What's more, he has successfully advanced to the martial arts realm in the past few days. Although his realm is not completely stable, he is still a real martial artist. He didn't believe that a child of 17 or 18 years old could withstand 2 moves under a real martial artist like himself. At this time, he also had absolute confidence and felt that he could control everything. So it seemed very relaxed. Roll. Yi Hao looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and the 2 dog-legged beings behind him. After feeling the malice contained in the other 3 people, he was not polite at all and replied with a cold face. What the hell do you mean? How dare you talk to our boss like this? Believe it or not, I will kill you right now. After the second child saw his eldest brother being scolded by a little brat, he became extremely angry. Rolling up his sleeves, he wanted to step forward and teach Yi Hao a lesson. Sun Lihai stopped the second child and spoke to Yi Hao again. Boy, tell me now, what are you digging for? I might be able to spare your life. If you are so rude again, don't blame me for turning your back on me. Quote. I said, get out. Yi Hao gently put the hoe aside, then stood up and looked coldly at the middle-aged man in front of him. Interesting, interesting. I haven't seen such a courageous young man in a long time. Sun Dinghai looked at the confident young man in front of him and immediately began to mutter and say harsh words. After finishing speaking, he took a step back slightly. He waved to the second and third oldest men on the side, indicating that the 2 of them should go ahead and test the water first. Boss, I'll go first. The second child looked at the young man in front of him coldly, then clasped his hands together and made a crackling sound. Obviously, Yi Hao had completely angered him just now. Look at my tortoise punch. The second child came to Yi Hao, and he swung a set of Wang Ba punches at will, very skillfully. Pointing directly at Yi Hao's face, he wanted to punch him away and teach the arrogant boy in front of him a lesson. Second brother is getting more and more skilled in his Wang Ba Quan. I'm afraid it won't be long before he can reach the great perfection state. The third child looked very serious when he saw the king's 8 punches performed by his second brother, and there was also a hint of appreciation and enthusiasm in his eyes. Both his and his second brother's talents were rubbish. They did not obtain valid rankings in the martial arts examination and were not admitted to Wuhan University. And they didn't want to go to a liberal arts university, so after taking the martial arts exam, they became idle martial artists in society. Make a living by hunting monsters in the secret realm. Later, I was lucky enough to get to know their current boss, Sun Lihai. A small group formed. After forming this small group of 3 people, they often engaged in some sneaky hookups, and even hunted down those warriors who acted alone from time to time, which can be said to have done all kinds of bad things. It's so annoying. Facing the full punch thrown at him, Yi Hao frowned and punched out casually, knocking the dick away in front of him. Second brother. The third child wanted to help him up. Hiss. It hurts. But he didn't expect that his kind act would accidentally touch the wound of his second child, causing him to take a breath of cold air and his body to tremble uncontrollably. The second child didn't expect that the young man in front of him was so powerful, and he could be knocked away with just 1 punch. I didn't expect you to be a real warrior. Sun Lihai did not expect that the boy in front of him was so young, but already a genuine warrior, and his level was not low, and he could actually knock his second child away. You must know that the second child is already a 4th level warrior and can easily defeat the second child. The young man is at least a 7th level warrior. Such a young genius also made him unable to help but stop in his tracks, while a trace of solemnity appeared on his face. To be able to cultivate such a powerful genius warrior, the power behind it must be unimaginable. He also felt a trace of regret and wanted to escape. But thinking about the treasure the other party was digging for, his heart was constantly shaking, making him a little reluctant to just retreat. As long as you are caught off guard and kill the opponent in advance before the opponent has time to activate the token in his body, then the outside world will have no way of knowing what happened here. The treasures in it belong to me. Quote, thinking of this, Sun Lihai winked at the second and third children on the ground. Come together. After receiving the order, Lauer took out a pill from his arms. Just swallow it. After a few breaths, the effect of the medicine had been activated in his body. The injuries on his body recovered rapidly in a short period of time, and there were even faint signs of breaking through to the 5th level of the warrior world. This is a pill that can restore injuries in a short time and forcibly improve one's realm. Worth a fortune. Of course, this pill has extremely serious side effects. However, I thought that I could kill the little brat in front of me next. Then it was all worth it, so he swallowed the pill without any hesitation. Then he looked at the old man in front of him and attacked Yi Hao from both sides. It's really annoying, you guys. Yi Hao looked at the 2 people who were attacking him again, with a hint of coldness on his face. He didn't expect that the 3 guys in front of him were so annoying. After seeing his own strength, they actually dared to take the initiative to attack. Moreover, he could sense that a lot of human lives were stuck in the hands of the 3 opponents, and their bodies were full of blood-evil energy. He acted as if he wanted to kill them, so he waved his arms and used a move with his fists to hit the sea, pointing directly at the chests of the 2 of them. With this blow, the 2 guys had to shed a layer of their skin even if they didn't die. Good opportunity. Seeing Yi Hao concentrating on dealing with his younger brother, Sun Lihai narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a murderous look in his eyes. He tapped his right foot, and his whole body disappeared instantly. This is a 2nd-grade martial arts skill that he has practiced hard for many years. He has never used it even in front of his younger brother. It is his biggest trump card. Now, in order to ensure that he could kill the boy in front of him and obtain the treasure behind him, he exposed himself without any hesitation. Feeling the energy coming from behind him, Yi Hao did not react at all and allowed the attack to hit him. Because he also wanted to see how terrifying his defense was, and then he felt a powerful force exploding from behind him. The whole person, including the second and third children in front of him, flew out upside down and hit the stone wall not far away. Vulnerable. After Sun Lihai glanced at Yi Hao, a trace of pride appeared on his face. Then, he looked at his two younger brothers. I was going to see if the two of them were still alive. He thought for a while, and then retracted his right foot that he had originally stepped out. He waved his sleeves and chose to give up. After taking the explosive blood pill, the second child's future has been half ruined. Even if he is rescued, he has no future. The third child's talent is worse than that of the second child, so there is no need to save him. Today, he is already a noble martial artist. After taking the treasure below, I will have as many younger brothers as I want. Thinking of this, he turned around and walked towards the cave wall. He just didn't expect that Yi Hao, who was behind him, gently patted the dust on his body and slowly got up from the ground. He looked at Sun Lihai in front of him, who didn't even care about his brother, with a mocking look on his face. I didn't expect you to be so cruel, risking your own brother's life and death for the sake of the baby. You're actually not dead. After hearing Yi Hao's voice, Sun Lihai turned around sharply and looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief. He never expected that after the other party suffered his fatal blow, nothing happened at all. With such powerful talent and strength, he actually didn't kill the opponent, so the next step would be his nightmare. Thinking of it, his face became even more ugly. Die. He looked at Yi Hao in front of him and rushed towards him again. Even if you can't kill the young man in front of you, you still have to force him away. When the time comes to take away the treasure below, he will immediately flee to other cities. The sky is high and the bird can fly, but no one can stop him when the time comes. I really thought I was afraid of you. Yi Hao looked at the guy in front of him coldly. He just wanted to test his physical strength, but it didn't mean that he was afraid of the other person. A low-level martial artist who couldn't even break through his own defense dared to be so arrogant. I really don't know who gave him the courage. Thinking of this, he also directly punched a Tezu long fist. How is this possible? As soon as they met, Sun Lihai felt a terrifying force pass through his right arm and hit his chest, and then he flew backwards. With a wow sound, he couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. But even so, it was difficult to conceal the fear in his heart. He didn't expect that in just one encounter, he, a martial artist, would be injured by the young man in front of him, and he didn't even know what he had discovered. Is this a martial artist? Nothing more than that. Yi Hao's punch just now used double attack talent, coupled with the blessing of artistic conception. If he couldn't defeat a guy who had just entered the martial arts realm, it would be really unbelievable. Looking at Sun Lihai, who looked in disbelief, his face was also full of ridicule. Are you a disciple of the four major families? Sun Lihai covered his chest and looked at the young man in front of him. In his mind, only among the four major families in Anhai City could such a genius appear. So what if it is, so what if it isn't? Yi Hao looked coldly at Sun Lihai in front of him. When the other party attacked him, his death was coming. For a dead person, no matter how many explanations there are, it means nothing. 2. Sun Lihai murmured. His face became paler and paler. After saying the last sentence, his head hung heavily and he was completely breathless. He took a punch with all his strength and did not die instantly, which was worthy of his level as a martial artist. Looking at the three people who were completely dead, Yi Hao's heart did not waver at all. Although it was his first time to kill someone, for him, it was no different than killing a monster. Maybe in his mind, humans and monsters are both animals. It's almost 24 hours, we need to speed up. Yi Hao looked at the time, rushed to the cave, picked up the hoe on the ground, and started digging again. If we don't hurry up, it will probably take more time to come in again. And what he is most worried about is that once he is kicked out of the secret realm, he can only wait 24 hours to enter the secret realm again. During this period, if someone discovers something strange here, the treasures underneath may not be saved. Fortunately, there's enough time. With only half an hour left, Yi Hao finally dug through the stone wall and saw the body of the giant worm. He quickly put the awakening stone attached to the giant worm into his space ring. The giant worm is already a second-level monster and can be sold for tens of thousands of low-level soul stones. That can't be wasted. It is indeed the awakening stone. Yi Hao carefully observed the awakening stone inside the space ring through his mental power. He felt the strong awakening power contained in it, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Just as he thought, what was in front of him was the awakening rough stone, an awakening rough stone that had never been used before. It contains a strong power of awakening. He believed that through this awakening rough stone, he would be able to awaken his second life talent. Such a huge and rich awakening power must give him a high-level talent. Thinking of this, he couldn't wait to start using the awakening raw stone to obtain his second talent. Less than 5 minutes, but when he raised his right hand and looked at the time on his watch, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of regret. Because in a few minutes, he will be kicked out by the heavenly Tao of the secret realm. At this time, if you use the awakening stone to awaken, something unexpected will probably happen. Therefore, it is better to wait until you get out before awakening. There's no rush anyway. A man in a straight suit was standing respectfully at the exit. When he saw a white brilliance flash past his eyes, and then the young man appeared on the spot, his eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly picked up his cell phone and compared it with the photos on his cell phone. After discovering that this person was his target, he hurriedly approached him. He bowed slightly and said very respectfully, "Are you Mr. Yi Haoye?" "Hello, I am Yi Hao, who are you?" Looking at the man in front of him, Yi Hao also showed a trace of doubt. However, he could feel a kind of kindness from the other party's tone, plus the other party was so polite. Therefore, he responded without any aversion. "I just don't know what the man in front of me is looking for." "Mr. Yi, our family master already knows that you saved Miss Joshi, so he specially asked me to give you this thank you gift. Moreover, our head of the family specially asked me to tell you that if there is time, the Zhou family welcomes you, Master Yi, to visit our Zhou family at any time. The Zhou family in Beijing welcomes Master Yi at any time." Quote. The man's address to Yi Hao was full of respect, and he sincerely thanked the young man in front of him. Because Zhou Shi grew up under their noses, they would never allow any accidents to happen to him. It's a pity that they have no way to deal with the Zhou clan's ancestral rules. Fortunately, their young lady, Ji Ren, had her own destiny, met the young man in front of her, and saved her life. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. After finishing speaking, he lightly tapped his hand, a flash of white light flashed, and a very delicate wooden box appeared in his hand, and he handed it to Yi Hao very respectfully. Zhou Shi, the image of that little girl in the film instantly appeared in Yi Hao's mind, and then he blurted it out. It's just that he didn't expect that the other party's origin was so great, that he actually came from Shengjing City, which was the capital of the Dragon Kingdom. Being able to establish his own family in the capital, with the surname Zhou, one can imagine the energy behind it. No wonder everyone can have a space ring. What seems rare to the outside world may be just an ordinary artifact in their eyes. Looking at the jade box in his hand, he thought about it and chose to accept it. "That's right, the one you saved is Our Lady." Zhou Zan nodded and replied. "Don't your family have some means of saving your young lady's life, not even a protector?" Yi Hao put the jade box into his space ring and looked at the man in front of him curiously. Zhou Zan's face showed a trace of bitterness. The Zhou clan's clan rules are more important than anything else, and there are people in the clan who don't want the young lady to live. In the outside world, the head of the family can still protect the young lady, but in the secret realm, he can only look after the young lady herself. Moreover, our family leader also suspected that this incident was caused by members of the clan. Quote. Nobles are so chaotic. Yi Hao had no choice but to comment. "Master Yi, I'm going back first. If you have time, you can come to our clan as a guest. We promise to receive you with the highest standards. This is my business card. After arriving in Shengjing City, you can call me with any questions. Our Zhou family still has some weight in Shengjing City." Quote. After finishing speaking, Zhou Zan handed Yi Hao a silver white business card again. It was very simple, with only a name and a number. "Well, I will go if I have time." Looking at the business card in his hand, Yi Hao memorized the number on it and put it into the space ring. "Mr. Yi, I'll take my leave first." After Zhou Zan finished speaking, he turned around and left. The lady still had things to go back to deal with, and he couldn't stay here for long. Could it be that there are other talents in Zhou Zai's body? Seeing Zhou Zan leaving in a hurry, Yi Hao thought of another possibility. From the name the other party addressed Zhou Shi, it can be seen that Zhou Zai's status in the Zhou family is definitely not low, at least he is a direct descendant. Although potpourri is a super talent, it is only an auxiliary talent and cannot bring much improvement to one's combat power. It is absolutely impossible for others to take action against her because of this talent. Then a very possible reason is that there may be another talent in the other party's body. It's a pity that it's none of my business anymore. Yi Hao shook his head and threw all these thoughts behind him. After all, after walking out of the secret realm, his father took care of him. It is estimated that no one in the Zhou family would dare to take action against Zhou Shi. It's still early, let's sell these monsters first. Yi Hao picked up his phone and looked at the time. It had just arrived at 8 o'clock, and if he wanted to enter secret realm number 1 again, he would have to wait another 24 hours. And he doesn't want to enter other secret realms now. He looked at the mountain-like pile of monster corpses in his space ring. After thinking about it, I decided to sell them. The low-level soul stones on his body are no longer enough, and he dares to sell those high-level soul stones. Therefore, it is better to sell these monsters first and exchange them for some low-level soul stones. And if he wants to activate his second soul talent, he must find a quiet place. Thinking of this, he directly waved down a taxi and got in it. Driver, go to Louis Avenue. Okay, sir. It didn't take long for the driver to take him to Louis Avenue. After getting off the car, he ran directly to Wanji Mall. Wanji Mall is the largest mall on Louis Avenue. It is distributed in many intermediate and advanced secret realms. This also includes the business of recovering monsters. Hello, sir, what business do you need to handle? Yi Hao went straight to the 4th floor where the monsters were recovered. A staff member wearing work clothes hurriedly came over and did not show any contempt for Yi Hao's young appearance. In a place like this Blue Star, there are many guys who pretend to be pigs and eat tigers. They don't want to lose any customers because of their contempt. After all, every time a customer comes in to sell, they get a commission. No matter how small the ants are, they are still meat. He won't miss any opportunity to get a commission. Another staff member saw that someone had already received Yi Hao. I also regret it endlessly. If you didn't go to the toilet, then the commission from this order should belong to you. I want to sell these monsters. Yi Hao was not polite at all. With a wave of his hand, the corpses of 3 first-order monsters appeared on the ground. Well, sir, this is a 3-headed first-order monster. Its body is completely intact, and these 2 incandescent ants can be used for medicinal purposes, so its value is slightly higher. We plan to recycle these 3 monsters for 3,600 low-level soul stones, what do you think? Wu Lan, who was in charge of Yi Hao, gently pushed up the glasses on the bridge of his nose, then took out the instrument and carefully looked at the monster in front of him. He quickly determined the identity and level of the monster in front of him and gave a price. Well, okay. Yi Hao nodded with satisfaction. The price given by the other party was also within his psychological tolerance. Unless a first-level monster has a special bloodline, generally speaking, their value is around 1,000 low-level soul stones. But he didn't expect that the price of incandescent ants was actually slightly higher. Sir, if you agree, you can provide me with your card number and I will transfer money to you right away. The staff member said with a smile. Although his commission from 3,600 low-level soul stones was only 1%, the commission this time was enough for him to eat a meal. Don't worry, there's more. Yi Hao shook his head gently, and then released the corpses of the remaining 24 first-order monsters. There are so many. Wu Lan looked at the mountain-like corpse of the monster in front of him with a surprised look on his face. Then he quickly reacted, took the instrument, and started his work. They are all first-order monsters. Soon, a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. He picked up the computer, clicked the button, and quickly completed the calculation. So, with excitement, he came to Yi Hao and said with a smile. Sir, according to my calculations, including the 3 monsters that just arrived, there are a total of 27 first-order monsters. The price we can offer is 28,000 low-level soul stones, what do you think? Well, what's the price for recycling the body of this second-level demonic beast here? Yi Hao nodded and released the body of the last second-level monster, the giant worm. The huge worm was more than 8 meters long, and its huge body lay directly across the hall. Fortunately, the hall is large enough, otherwise, it would really be impossible to pile up so many corpses. What a complete corpse, with no trace of a wound. Wu Lan quickly went up and checked the monster in front of him. It was quickly confirmed that this was a second-level monster, and no wounds were found. This result made him very curious about the young man in front of him. The other monsters did have wounds, but there was no sign of corruption. In other words, the death date of these monsters does not exceed 1 day. If these monsters, including this second-level monster, were all killed by the young man in front of him, the young man in front of him must be so terrifying. However, this kind of thing is not something he can touch, so he can just think about it. After thinking about it, Wu Lan said, "Sir, this giant worm is very well preserved, and we are willing to pay 15,000 low-level soul stones for it. Including the previous 28,000 low-level soul stones, we can give a total price of 43,000 low-level soul stones for recycling. What do you think?" Quote. After saying that, the staff couldn't help but feel ecstatic. For this order, even with a 1% commission, he would still have an income of 430 low-level soul stones. That was several days' wages for him, and it only took him less than half an hour to get it. The other staff member who saw all this could only watch helplessly as the commission that originally belonged to him went into someone else's pocket. If he had known it, he would have shit his pants and not go to the toilet. In a poop, 430 low-level soul stones were lost. Just 43,000. Yi Hao nodded. He didn't expect that he would earn 43,000 low-level soul stones just by going to the secret realm. Eliminate the 1,000 low-level soul stone tickets and make a net profit of 42,000 low-priced soul stones. Then, he reported his card number to the other party. Within a few seconds, 43,000 low-level soul stones had arrived. "Sir, this is my business card. It has my contact information on it. If you want to sell monsters again next time, you can call me in advance. If the quantity is large, I can also provide door-to-door service." Seeing Yi Hao who wanted to leave, Wu Lan made the most important decision in his life. He took out his business card and handed it to Yi Hao in front of him. "Okay, then I'll leave first." Yi Hao thought about it and chose to take it. With his character, there will definitely be many corpses of monsters in the future. In this case, selling it to the person in front of him is not a bad idea. After all, he was very satisfied with the recycling price just given by the other party. "Sir, welcome to your next visit." After seeing Yi Hao accept his business card, Wu Lan was very excited. He could vaguely feel that the young man in front of him could bring him huge surprises in the future. "You really got a big advantage this time. I'm going to be so angry." Lu Lin stepped forward and looked at Wu Lan in front of her with envy, but then she gritted her teeth with hatred. "Hey, you just went to the toilet, and you asked me to take over your shift. You can't blame me." Wu Lan looked at his companion in front of him with a wicked smile. In order to ensure that every staff member in the store has customers, every once in a while, the staff standing at the door will be replaced. This ensures that everyone can have their own guest. But just now, Lu Lin had a stomachache and needed to go to the toilet, so she asked him to take her place. During this period, Yi Hao happened to arrive. Therefore, we really can't blame him for this matter. It was the other party who gave him this opportunity. Otherwise, he would not be able to accept Yi Hao as a guest. No, I'm at a huge disadvantage. You have to buy me milk tea and reward me properly." Lu Lin pursed her lips and looked at Wu Lan in front of her with dissatisfaction, then she hugged the other person's arm and acted coquettishly. Okay, I'll buy it for you." A trace of doting flashed deep in Wu Lan's eyes, and she nodded with a smile. "Okay." After receiving Wu Lan's confirmation, Lu Lin nodded with satisfaction. Yi Hao did not leave Wanji Mall, but came to the third underground floor. This is the training room specially built for warriors in Wanji Mall. At the bottom of Wanji Mall, there is a small soul stone vein. The closer it is to the underground, the more intense the energy it absorbs. Therefore, the price is getting more and more expensive. The price on the third underground floor has reached 100 low-level soul stones per hour. What was given to Yi Hao was only a training room of less than 10 square meters. In fact, Yi Hao's purpose was not to provide energy for the low-level soul stone veins underneath. He has high-level soul stones in his body, and he doesn't look down on these so-called low-level soul stone veins at all. What he values is the privacy of the 3 underground floors. Because he is afraid that visions will occur when he awakens his second talent, which will attract the attention of others. And being on the 3rd underground floor is enough to cover up all of this, which is his ultimate goal. Wake up first. After closing the door of the training room, Yi Hao took out the awakening rough stone that was as tall as a person and placed it in front of him. Feeling the rich power of awakening inside, he breathed a sigh of relief, and then placed his hands on the original stone of awakening. Immediately, he felt that there was a strange energy slowly flowing into his body from his hands. It was an indescribable special energy. Its level seems to be very high, far higher than any energy Yi Hao has seen so far. The qi and blood in his body, under this kind of energy, seemed very humble, and he did not even dare to move, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. This awakening power was allowed to circulate in Yi Hao's body, but fortunately it did not cause any damage to Yi Hao's body. It feels so good. Yi Hao couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. He felt that his cells were jumping and dancing like they were alive. At the same time, a small white sword appeared in front of him. This is my second talent. Looking at the small white sword that suddenly appeared in front of him, Yi Hao couldn't help but frown. Because he felt that there was still a lot of awakening power in his body. So much awakening power has not yet been used, but he has already awakened his second talent. Doesn't that mean that the awakening power in his body will be wasted? Thinking of this, his face became more and more ugly. Is it possible that there is something wrong with my body? Logically speaking, the second talent should be awakened after obtaining enough awakening power. But now, with just a little awakening power, he has awakened. Doesn't that mean you are trash? Just when Yi Hao fell into self-doubt, the small white sword in front of him split into 2 and became 2 handles. There's still drama. Feeling that part of the awakening power in his body had disappeared, and looking at the small sword in front of him, Yi Hao had a bold idea in his mind. Then, under his gaze, the 2 small swords in front of him divided again and turned into 4. Come again. Seeing this exciting scene, Yi Hao's depression disappeared. He stared intently at the 4 flying swords in front of him, wanting to see if they would separate again. Sure enough, in the next second, the 4 small swords in front of him had turned into 8, and then into 16. What a pity. Looking at the awakening power in his body, it has been exhausted. He originally thought that there was enough awakening power, but now he felt that it was far from enough. I need to have more awakening power. Thinking of this, he looked at the awakening stone in front of him again and put his hands on it. Inhale all the remaining awakening power into your own body. 32 small swords. After absorbing the last bit of awakening power, the 16 small swords in front of him finally split again and turned into 32 small swords. Flying sword. Extraordinary talent. Each small sword is equivalent to a first-grade sword. During combat, the small swords can be fused into one. Each small sword can increase the power and quality of the body by 25%. Current level. 2. Upgrade level. Improve the level with the realm. Extraordinary talent. Looking at the relevant information in his mind, Yi Hao couldn't help but swallowed. Go. Looking at the small sword floating in front of him, he waved his hand gently, and the small sword in front of him obeyed his thoughts and swam quickly in the air like a swimming dragon. Combine. Thinking of what was mentioned in the information, each small sword can increase its power and quality by 25% after being combined. Thinking of this, Yi Hao became curious. With a wave of his right hand, the small swords in front of him merged together. Soon, a giant flying sword made of 32 small swords appeared in front of him. At this time, the giant sword was more than 10 feet long, very broad and thick, with a silvery white light shining on it. It was simple and majestic, and looked very extraordinary. The quality of the current giant sword should be able to reach the level of a second-level treasure. Yi Hao gently stroked the giant sword in front of him and couldn't help but comment. 32 small swords, superimposed 31 times. Each superposition increases the quality and power by 25%. In other words, the giant sword in front of you has 775% of the quality and power of the previous small sword. The original first-grade treasure weapon, after such a terrifying improvement, is comparable to the second-grade treasure weapon. Of course, the specific situation depends on the actual battle. Only after experiencing a real battle can we truly be sure that the giant sword in front of us can be equivalent to a second-level treasure. It's a pity that my physical body is too strong. The giant sword in front of me may not be able to hurt me. Otherwise, I can directly judge the level of the sword in front of me. Yi Hao looked at his body and couldn't help but sigh. His physical body is comparable to a second-level peak monster. Therefore, it can be immune to all attacks below the third-grade treasure weapon. This also caused him to be unable to correctly judge whether the thing in front of him was a second-level treasure. But he didn't dwell too much on something that didn't make much sense. With a wave of his right hand, the giant sword in front of him decomposed into 32 small swords, which flew into his body one after another and entered his sea of consciousness. These 32 small swords will become his most important trump card. Could this be the special effect of the awakening raw stone? Just when Yi Hao was about to take back the awakening rough stone in front of him and put it into the space ring, he suddenly discovered that the awakening rough stone had been drained by himself. At this time, for some unknown reason, there was an extra ray of awakening power in the original stone. This was something Yi Hao never expected. But he remembered clearly. He had clearly drained the last ray of awakening power from the other party, and there was absolutely no way that any awakening power would remain. But now it is obvious that the awakening power in front of him is likely to be born again after he sucked it dry. To verify your ideas. This time, Yi Hao did not immediately receive the awakening stone in front of him into his space ring. Soon, under his gaze, a second strand of awakening power as thin as hair was born out of thin air again and appeared in the awakening rough stone. Sure enough, just as I thought, this awakening power can really be born continuously. It is really a big treasure. Thinking of this, Yi Hao could not conceal his inner ecstasy. The reason why I gave up and put the awakening rough stone back into the space ring. The inside of the space ring belongs to a unique space. There is no energy in it, and you can't even feel any flow of time. So before, he didn't notice anything strange about the awakening stone. Perhaps, only in the outside world, the awakening rough stone in front of you will gradually recover. It seems that it won't be long before I can gain enough awakening power again. Yi Haone looked at the sea of consciousness and looked at the 32 small swords in the sea of consciousness. Next time, if you absorb enough awakening power, your little sword may be able to evolve again, and even become a legendary king-level talent, which is a realm that is difficult for mortals to reach. I'm afraid, among those families that have been passed down for thousands of years, there must be awakening raw stones, such as the Zhou clan where Zhou Shi belongs. Yi Hao suddenly thought of the Zhou Shi he met earlier, the awakening rough stone that is difficult to see in the eyes of ordinary people. This kind of stone is also common in the eyes of a 1,000-year-old wealthy family. I remember, they also gave me a wooden box. Yi Hao thought of the wooden box that Zhou Zan had given to him before. Now it seemed that with the handiwork of a 1,000-year-old family, the contents inside should not be ordinary things. After taking out the wooden box, Yi Hao actually smelled the faint fragrance of flowers, which made people feel relaxed and happy. This wooden box alone contains more than 10,000 low-level soul stones. Yi Hao looked at the exquisite wooden box in his hand and the faint fragrance. He could easily recognize that this treasure was made from the essence of the century-old demon peach. It could perfectly preserve the objects inside and strengthen its roots. Its value is naturally high. It's actually blood jade ginseng. Yi Hao couldn't help but open the wooden box in his hand. When he saw the items in the box clearly, his eyes widened. It was a blood jade ginseng, the whole body was blood red, and every root was perfectly preserved. You could clearly see the blood flowing in the roots, just like a piece of peerless jade. This is why the other party was called a blood jade. The reason for ginseng. The blood jade ginseng in front of me, although only the size of a palm, is already a 4th-grade heavenly material and earthly treasure. Among the monsters, only those at the Demon King level are eligible to enjoy the treasures. In the human world, even if there are not millions of low-level soul stones, there is no qualification to see it. Its medicinal effect is simple and crude, allowing users to perform a perfect baptism and obtain huge benefits. There is even a chance to unlock the treasures in the body and obtain your own natal magical powers. This thank you gift is really too heavy. Yi Hao also didn't expect that Zhou Zai's father would actually give him such an important blood spirit ginseng. But since he had already accepted it, there was no need for him to return it. But from this blood spirit ginseng, we can see how much Zhou Zai's father values his daughter. Absorb it first. Thinking of this, Yi Hao picked up the blood spirit ginseng in his hand and took a bite. In an instant, blood-red liquid overflowed from the wound. Yi Hao directly sucked the blood-red liquid with his mouth until the blood ginseng on his hand dried up. He did not waste any time on the dried blood spirit ginseng. He rolled it up directly and put it into his mouth. After chewing it for a few times, he swallowed it directly. What a powerful medicine! In less than a few breaths, Yi Hao felt his body become hot. Immediately afterwards, all the pores on his body were opened in an instant, and blood-red liquid overflowed, turning him into a bloody man. However, Yi Hao did not feel any bad changes in his body. Instead, he felt that his physical body had become much stronger. Perhaps it has reached the level of the third-level monster body. I don't know what magical powers I can awaken. Yi Hao thought of some rumors. If they were true, then for the first baptism, there was a great possibility that he would dig out the divine treasure in his body and obtain his first magical power. After hundreds of years of exploration, Blue Star has discovered many high-level secret realms, which contain countless powerful forces, sects, and even ancient families that have been passed down for thousands of years. In their inheritance, they all have the same saying. In their eyes, the human body is like a small universe, and the cells in the human body are like a sky full of stars. Every human body is a hidden treasure that has not yet been excavated, containing infinite mysteries. Only after repeated baptisms can you get the key to unlock the mystery and obtain the divine treasure beyond the mystery. I am afraid that even among the Zhou clan, this blood spirit ginseng is an extremely rare treasure, not because of its grade, but because of its effect in allowing people to complete the first baptism. This effect is enough to increase its value by an extra level in a lifetime. According to rumors, as long as you keep baptizing, you can continuously obtain the legendary divine treasures. The body will also continue to evolve with baptism, possessing all kinds of miraculous abilities. Unfortunately, for ordinary people, this is just a rumor. The speed of absorption is a bit slow. Yi Hao could feel his body jumping for joy, greedily absorbing the blood-red energy. My own body is also constantly evolving. Unfortunately, the speed of absorbing this blood-red energy is too slow. An hour has passed, and less than 8% of the blood-red power has been absorbed. It is estimated that it will take more than 10 hours to complete the absorption. Fortunately, during this period, Yi Hao could feel himself getting stronger, but he didn't feel bored at all. It's finally almost here. Seeing that there was not much blood-red energy left in his body, Yi Hao showed a hint of joy on his face and accelerated the absorption speed again. But what he didn't notice was that the entire training room was covered by blood-red mist, making it difficult to see everything in it. Under the influence of the blood-red mist, the awakening rough stone also created a special linkage, and the birth of the awakening power was accelerated several times. In other words, the awakening rough stone in front of you has the ability to convert other energy into the awakening power. It's just that Yi Hao, who was practicing, didn't notice this. Boom, boom, dong dong dong. The last ray of blood-red energy in the body was absorbed, and Yi Hao's body finally changed. His heart was constantly vibrating with his breathing. Every time it vibrated, Yi Hao felt that the qi and blood in his body were getting stronger, and it was getting stronger visibly to the naked eye. He also discovered the most important thing. With his deliberate control, his heart beating speed could be accelerated several times. He did not stop until he reached the limit that his body could bear, and controlled the beating speed of his heart to what he could. Within the tolerance range. The speed at which qi and blood become stronger has also been accelerated several times. Not good. In just a few minutes, Yi Hao's energy and blood increased by a certain value. The speed of increase was terrifying. Just when he wanted to continue to increase his blood, he suddenly found that his head was shaking, and he instantly lost consciousness and fell down. The moment he fell, the blood-red mist floating in the training room quickly gathered towards Yi Hao's body, and finally turned into tiny red threads, wrapping Yi Hao's body, and finally turned into a huge blood-red cocoon. At this time, Yi Hao, in the big cocoon, seemed to have returned to his mother's arms. Subconsciously, his body slowly curled up together. If this scene is seen by those wealthy families, they will definitely recognize it. This is a precursor to opening the first divine treasure in the body. When Yi Hao comes out of the cocoon, it is equivalent to completing a perfect baptism and getting the opportunity to be reborn and get unexpected benefits, which is the state they dream of. After all, even if you have the precious medicine that can be used for baptism, there is no guarantee that you can successfully enter this cocooning state every time. In the outside world, after discovering that the blood-red energy disappeared, the awakening rough stone also returned to its original state and returned to its previous speed. However, after a brief silence, the awakening stone was suddenly inserted into the ground. Suddenly, a steady stream of pure energy poured into the original stone. This rich energy seems to be a bit beyond the upper limit of the primary soul stone vein. It's been a few days. In the corridor of the training room on the 3rd floor underground, a man who looked like a manager was walking around. The slightly cramped steps were enough to show that his mood was extremely unstable. Looking at the number 9 training room that still showed no sign of being opened, he couldn't help but turn around again and ask the staff on the side. "Manager Wang, it's been 14 days. The staff responded quickly. He was also very worried about this, because few people stayed in the practice room for 14 days. If it weren't for the fact that the instrument detected that there was still life inside, they might not be able to help but rush in to see what happened inside. What? Forget it, let me know when he wakes up." Wang Ling took a deep look at the training room number 9, hoping that the other party didn't discover something. Otherwise, he would never let the other party get out of this 3rd level. However, he had no right to rush in. He could only know what happened when Yi Hao took the initiative to withdraw. "Manager Wang, I will inform you as soon as possible when the time comes." Because the manager in front of him was worried about the safety of the guest, the man quickly agreed. "Okay, just keep an eye on it first." After saying that, Manager Wang left in a hurry. Otherwise, he still has things to deal with, and he will definitely wait here for the other party to come out. Now I can only leave it to the guy in front of me. He just hoped that he didn't find out what he was most worried about. Time flew by, and another 3 days passed. Yi Hao finally opened his eyes. "Is this the magical power I have activated?" Yi Hao looked at his heart and sighed. If someone could see through his body, they would find that his heart turned silver white, and with every beat, his body strength would become stronger, and his energy and blood would also increase. This is his magical power, the silver heart. As long as his heart doesn't stop, he can continue to grow stronger. Is this or that? At this time, Yi Hao noticed his current state. When he saw the blood-red cocoon wrapping himself, he thought of the information recorded in the rumors, and pressed his right hand on it as mentioned above. On the blood cocoon. The blood cocoon quickly turned into streaks of blood-red energy in Yi Hao's hands, which poured into his body, making Yi Hao become much stronger. So much awakening power. When he looked at the awakening stone, he found that it already contained a lot of awakening power. This discovery made his face change instantly, and he realized something and quickly picked up his phone. When Yi Hao saw the deduction information from the training room of Wanji Mall and the changing time, he couldn't help but cursed, "I actually stayed here for 17 days. Looking at the message from his good brother Zhang Sa, he quickly replied with a few words. There was also a friend request from Joshi, which came from 17 days ago, and he quickly agreed. "Little brother, I thought you had forgotten me." The next second after applying as a friend, Josai's message came. In this regard, Yi Hao also quickly explained, and at the same time told the other party that he had completed his first baptism. After all, the blood ginseng was given to him by the other party's father, so there was no problem in telling the other party. My little brother is so lucky. He actually succeeded in baptism for the first time. I have been baptized 5 times without success once. I suddenly feel like a failure. Joshi, who was resting on the big bed, jumped up from the bed after hearing that Yi Hao's first baptism was successful. It was as if she was the one who was successfully baptized. When she calmed down, she remembered that she had not been successful in baptism even once, and she couldn't help but feel a little depressed. I am also lucky. Maybe next time, you will be baptized successfully. Yi Hao replied with a smile. Well, what the little brother said is, maybe it will succeed next time. Afterwards, the two chatted for a while before it ended. My mother actually doesn't have a single message. Yi Hao looked at his phone and thought it was broken, but he just finished chatting with Joshi and proved that his phone was normal. With doubts, he called his mother. Xiao Hao, what's the matter with calling me? Unexpectedly, Yi's mother, who had just been connected, asked Yi Hao if there was anything wrong with him. Mom, during the 17 days I was missing, weren't you worried about anything happening to me? Yi Hao became increasingly suspicious of whether he was his mother's biological son. His son had disappeared for more than 10 days without a single message or phone call, as if nothing had happened. You can't die, so what are you worried about? Yi Mu raised her head and glanced at the living room, where a big-bellied Maitreya Buddha was enshrined, with a string of beads hanging around its neck. Among them were 3 special relics, each of which exuded rich vitality. I can't die. What does that mean? In the training room, Yi Hao frowned. He didn't know what his mother was talking about. He always felt that he had discovered some big secret. Anyway, you can't die. Just remember to go home if you have nothing to do. I'll hang up first and Huan will begin. After finishing speaking, Yi Mu hung up the phone directly without explaining. How strange. Looking at the hung-up cell phone, Yi Hao always felt that his mother was hiding something from him. It's a pity that his mother seems to have no idea of explaining. Let's go out first. Yi Hao took back the awakening stone, then opened the door of the training room and walked out. The staff member responsible for watching Yi Hao quickly sent a message to the manager when he saw Yi Hao coming out. After sending the message, he also stopped Yi Hao. What's the matter? Yi Hao was a little confused. Sir, our manager wants to see you for something. Please go to our workroom and wait for a while. Rongheng didn't know why the manager asked him to keep the other party. He could only lead the other party to the workroom. When the manager came, it would be none of his business. I have other things. If there is nothing important, I will leave first. Yi Hao frowned, bypassed Rongheng in front of him, and walked towards the elevator. Sir, you'd better go to the workshop with me, otherwise, you won't be able to leave here. Rongheng waved his hand, and 3 more staff members gathered around. Do you, the Wanji Mall, plan to bully your customers? Looking at the 4 people surrounding him, Yi Hao said coldly. Sir, you should just follow me to the workshop honestly. Rongheng saw that many guests were looking this way, and he was under tremendous pressure, so he could only urge again. I want to see what you are up to. Yi Hao felt cold in his heart. Then he followed Rongheng into the workshop. Seeing the cooperative Yi Hao, Rongheng breathed a sigh of relief and waved his hand, indicating that his companions could leave. Sir, you drink water first. Our manager will be here soon. Rongheng held a glass of water and placed it in front of Yi Hao. After speaking, he also walked out. The manager has arrived and there is nothing left for him to do. Wang Ling walked into the number 9 training room. When he found that the energy accumulated in the lower array had disappeared, his eyes suddenly filled with blood. It was obvious that he was completely angry. That was the energy he used to plan to break through to the Master Realm, but all of it was taken away by that kid. No, it's not necessarily absorbed. Wang Ling thought about the other party's identity information, and how could a child from an ordinary family absorb enough energy to break through to the Master Realm? The other party must have a treasure that can store energy. It's all mine. Thinking of this, Wang Ling's anger disappeared without a trace in an instant. Because he discovered that now he could not only recover the lost energy, but also obtain a treasure that stored energy. What a surprise! A child from an ordinary family is still on his territory and is still at his mercy. This way, Yi Hao looked at the tea on the table and gently pushed it away. He didn't dare to bet whether it was drugged or not. He didn't want to put himself at a disadvantage from the beginning. Boy, give me my energy back. As soon as Wang Ling came in, he looked deeply at the young man in front of him, his eyes full of unabashed greed. What energy? Yi Hao was very puzzled and didn't understand what the other party was talking about. He spent the past 17 days in a blood cocoon. Really don't know what happened. As for the culprit, Awakening Stone, he naturally did not have the ability to stand up and admit his mistakes. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.